Hi, so this is an interview I actually uploaded last week on October 17th. I didn't realize that the video file must have got corrupted or something. There was some issue with the rendering or something, but I didn't know about until I went to upload a different interview today and saw that this interview never actually went up. So I apologize to Mark Hegan for that. I'm going to keep the video elements of this to a minimum, so hopefully it will upload. I don't know what the issue was, but apologies to Mark. I thought this was uploaded to YouTube last week, but thank you and enjoy. Hello and welcome to Post-Burnout.com interviews. Post-Burnout.com is a culture website dedicated to venerating burnt-out artists the world over. My name is Aaron Kavanagh and I'm the website's founder and editor-in-chief. This is our website's podcast where we publish the full interviews from our site's articles and sometimes release exclusive episodes. In this edition of Post-Burnout.com interviews, the Bangor rock singer-songwriter Mark Hegan discusses getting into music, starting his solo project, his recent EP First a Whisper Then a Shout, the themes and making of the EP, life in Bangor, the influences that Bruce Springsteen and film soundtracks have had on his work, his future plans, and much more. Mark actually has a few shows coming up and you should check him out live if you get the opportunity because I've seen him live and he's really, really good, really passionate, really sincere. So tomorrow at the time of upload, which will be October 18th, he'll be playing at the Grand Social in Dublin as part of the Arcadian Nights Festival. Then on October 26th, he'll be supporting Foreign Mornings at the Courthouse in Bangor. Then on December 2nd, he'll be headlining the Voodoo in Belfast. Now, at the time of uploading this, that gig hasn't been announced yet, but he discusses it in the interview, so hopefully he won't mind me saying that. Tickets for the Dublin and Bangor show are available in the description of this episode. At the time of upload, the Voodoo show doesn't have tickets released yet, so stay tuned for that. Keep up with Mark on social media and all that, and wait to hear when that comes out. Otherwise, enjoy.
Hey,
Hey Mark, lovely to see you again, man.
hey,
Sorry
Aaron,
about this.
lovely to see
I've
you
been
too.
all over the place lately, so I apologize
You,
for
no, absolutely not. You're all good. No apology necessary. Thanks for chatting to me. How are
absolutely
things?
been grand, man. How was the success of the EP been? Because it's crazy to me. I was looking up when like it came out, and it's like almost a month
I
already, and
know.
like to me, it felt like yesterday.
I don't even chat to me. I don't know. Maybe it's a universal thing that September
Yeah,
has been like that. That's the way it seems to
yeah.
me. It's been great. We did after we saw you in Dublin, we did a launch in Belfast and sold it out, and it was one of the most special nights
Yeah.
I've ever had. So that was super. But the run up to it was one of the most stressful times of my life because I was doing recorded it and produced it all myself, and then things go wrong, and then you're trying to get your physical media, and you're trying to get bits, all these things, and
Yeah.
and so I didn't get a lot of time to get in touch with a lot of blogs, and so a number of blogs were like, "Oh, it's already out, we can't feature it." I'm like, "What?"
Oh, really?
So
Yeah,
that's
that's
part of it, but
see, I think like my kind of attitude with that is like I was trying to like rush things to like meet the release date, but like my attitude is that like no, I think like the longevity of it because to some degree, if like every publication is putting it out when it comes out,
yeah.
there's this big explosion, and then it's just like, but I think like when you kind of give it some time, it still keeps it in people's mind if that makes sense.
I absolutely agree. Look, if it were up to me, that would be that would be my approach. But I don't know. Look, the thing was, the there and then with people, and that was so special, and that was just everything you could have dreamed of. So it's been going down. It's been going down really well. Got some great radio play, and yeah, it's just it's doing its thing, and I'm very very proud of it. Which is well, and I'm my harshest critic, so that I really am quite proud of it. Now that could change in a matter of weeks if I re-listen to it and go, Jesus, but I am proud
Do,
of
do
it
you
right now.
re-listen to your stuff? Actually, well, that was just probably a stupid question. I was going to ask
Hmm.
you re-listen to your stuff, but obviously you're performing every night, so you kind of have to.
Kind of yes, yeah. Well, yeah. I and then I would go into Spotify every now and again and be like, how does this hold up?
Yeah.
And how does it? And so for the time, I mean, it's been out 1 month, so I hope it hasn't aged. But it is good to occasionally I go back and I listen and then go right, okay, and that'll inform my decisions then for what I do next. If I hear a production thing I don't like, or I'll then try and change that going forward. So yeah, but you can't dwell on it all too much. There's things I will absolutely not listen to of mine. That I'll just go, okay, right, whatever. Did that at the time. My mistakes are my own. That's the way I
Yeah.
put it. All my mistakes are my own. I'll keep going, and yeah.
Yeah, well, it reminds me of the story of Brian Wilson from the Beach Boys. I brought this up so many times
Mm.
when I've been talking about it. I don't know why. It's a fascinating story to me where, he spent like decades trying to perfect like the perfect album, as if he hadn't already with Pet Sounds.
Yes,
But he
yes,
had this idea of like, trying to make the most like sonically perfect record, and I don't think it ever. I don't know how close he got actually to releasing it or like even completing it, but it was just this idea of like it was kind of like an OCD thing, I think, like,
yes.
and it was like, like I think like some of it was like getting Coke cans and opening the can and stuff like that, and that would make and trying to incorporate that and all these like little details and stuff like that. I'm always just like, if you dwell on it too much, it can be a problem,
That's
because
awesome. That's Coke cans. That's great. I guess what happens is, I cannot speak for Brian Wilson, and I
sure,
can't do that, and that's a whole other that's a whole other league, a whole other stratosphere. But it's cool. What you kind of do is what I think happens to me at least is you're striving for something and you work really really hard, but once you're in it you can't see it. When
yeah,
when you're doing it, and then you can only time can really, you can learn your craft as well as best you can, and then you can only look back and then see how it makes you feel, if it makes you feel at all. So I guess, yeah, I'd strive to be, oh, I got to make this as good, and then spend ages and ages and ages and ages and ages. But then only months later can you listen back and go, oh, is there an energy there? Is there? You listen to it as a listener, and
yeah,
unfortunately, as a listener, there's so many things that you think are so important that just aren't. That
yeah,
just aren't. I think there's a number of things that just go in. If you're a listener, you hear an energy or you hear a feeling that's an unconscious that is so hard to get across when you're in the middle of it writing.
yeah.
But that's really interesting. I'll look that up, and I'll listen to Pet Sounds again, because that would be. It's been a minute. It's been a
It
minute.
has been a minute for me too, actually, but it is such a
Yeah.
great record.
Oh, absolutely,
And it's a
absolutely.
great album cover too.
Oh, it is brilliant album cover.
It's like
Brilliant.
someone's holiday pictures. It's like
Yeah,
who
yeah,
went to
yeah.
the
It's
petting
something.
zoo.
It's almost like, do you know those photos? This is a bit unfair. I mean this in a good way. Do you ever see those photos where it's like this is a photographic, like this is what it is to resemble having a stroke, like visually what you look at, and
Yeah.
it's like all these things, and that's how it feels to me. It's like I'm not quite sure what's going on. You need to kind of focus. There's a lot going on, but that's unfair. I meant that nicely, not about it in a very nice way.
So
Um,
hopefully you won't pick up Pet Sounds one day and have a stroke while looking at it,
yeah,
because then
well, well, that would be karma for me. What I just said
you'd be
then,
like,
wouldn't
I can't tell.
it? I meant that in the nicest way. It's really cool. It's really cool. It's really cool.
I wanted to
Anyway.
ask, you were mentioning, sort of like learning your craft as you go, and
Mm,
it's an interesting thing, like, because, I think like musicians are never fully like set in their ways. Like, I think there's always more to learn, and a lot of that
mhm,
happens organically just through, the love of playing the instrument. If you have that love, and the same with any instrument, piano, but like violin, whatever your voice is.
mm.
So I was wondering for you, I mean, did you start like learning yourself, or was it kind of like self-taught, or were you formally trained, or?
Yeah, no, the first thing I learned was piano, and then I got piano lessons, and that's how that started when I was 8 years old, and then I grew to hate it, unfortunately, because it just wasn't the right time, or it wasn't,
Yeah.
just wasn't quite right. And I did really love music. The music that I loved was, I really liked Green Day, and I really liked John Williams film music. So
Hmm.
there's that Van Dyke, find the crossover in that. But no, that was really cool. But I just didn't really see the point of piano. And then later I went to see a gig, and it changed my life completely. And then I was picking up the guitar, and then I relearned the piano with with what I knew from the guitar, so kind of backwards. And then I got guitar lessons that were more, I got some really good guitar lessons, and then I got a guitar teacher who just kind of mentored me in songwriting, and was just really really less a traditional teacher, but the sort of teacher who's exactly right for me.
Was he like taking the stuff you were interested in, trying to teach you that?
So yeah, absolutely, absolutely, and he kind of listened to me and listened to what I liked and things. But then, for example, he mentioned to me, he said, uh, he went, okay, and you should go listen to U2. You've heard of U2, but you should go listen to them, because that's a guy who, when he sings, he means it, and the most beautiful songs, and and I was like, okay, I'll check him out. And that changed my life forever. I became obsessed with U2, and that's just his impact on me, and I remember he gave me a list of albums that I should listen to. Great albums. Remember the Bends was on it by Radiohead, which also
Yep.
was really important album. Albums I'd never heard. I wish I had that piece of paper still, that he gave to me, and I'm pretty sure Acting Baby would have been on it as well. And just great albums. Hounds of Love by Kate Bush was on it too, which I absolutely loved. And that's the sort of teacher he was, and class. So yeah, that kind of answers your question. I just went down a whole lovely memory
No,
lane
you
there.
actually gave me two good follow-up questions from
Right.
from what you're saying. I guess the first thing I'll start with was you mentioned there was a gig you went to that changed your life. What
Mm-hmm.
was it?
Snow Patrol in Ward Park
Okay, cool. Yeah,
changed
local
my life.
legends.
Local legends, absolutely great, just the best, just the
Yeah.
best. Yeah.
What I find really interesting about Snow Patrol is like how they've managed to kind of maintain like their relevancy. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
think like only a couple of years ago they were headlining Electric Picnic and
Yeah.
like still playing massive like venues across the country and across I'm sure the world as well.
Yes.
How do you think like a band like that maintains their relevancy as the music landscape changes? Have you thought about this? Like, because
Yes.
like someone like you two, for example, as a point of comparison, or even Green Day,
Yeah.
like they're kind of like you get to such a status that like you're just kind of set for life. You know what I
Yes.
mean? Like you're not going to play anything less than a stadium if you're U2 now.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
like someone like Snow Patrol, for example, they had success, quite early in their career, have been able to maintain that,
Mm-hmm.
and um, I'm blanking on the lead singer's name now, but
Lightbody, Gary
yes,
Lightbody.
yeah, Gary. He put out like recently put out an album. I say recently, I can't remember if it was this year or a couple of years ago, about the passing of his father.
Yes.
And this is very
Yep.
personal. And
Yep.
these songs. So how do you think, like, and I think that's just like a very interesting thing. Like that's something you do for commercial success. That's something
Mm-hmm.
that's a very personal thing. So
Yep.
I was wondering, how do you think a band like that maintains success, and do you think that it's something that uh you think about it in that sense?
Yeah. Absolutely. I do all the time, because I think it's great songs, and that sounds like, do you know what that sounds like? That sounds like a manager speaking to his football or soccer team, going, just score more goals. But that's the truth of it. I think,
Sure.
when they got really big in the noughties, stylistically, in terms of, their image and things like that, it was kind of what was going on at the time. It was like that kind of post Britpop, or whatever it was,
Yeah.
guitar rock back,
Like
noughties.
Arctic Monkeys and the
Arctic
Strokes and
Monkeys,
such.
the editors, so that kind of vibe. And even Coldplay was
Yeah.
probably the biggest of that. But there's something so wonderful about the songs that take that sort of sound, but make it deeply personal. I understand. Gary's very inspired by Seamus Heaney, and you can feel that
Yeah.
there's something extremely colloquial and something extremely intimate about his songwriting, but on a huge scale. And his delivery is so emotional and so emotive, and those songs are so emotive. There's track 5 on Eyes Open. No one ever says that and talks like that anymore. Track 5, but track 5 on Eyes Open is a song called "It's Beginning to Get to Me," and it is just one that they never play, but is just the most emotive uh, song. He just has this way of capturing intimacy between people that is, I think, next to none. And that's why I think they last, because those fundamentals are spot on.
Yeah. And the other question I wanted to ask, based on what you were originally saying, was you were talking about um bringing what you learned from guitar onto piano. So was that
Mm-hmm.
just like emulating the chords? So for example, if you're playing a G, just playing on your guitar, just playing the G on the piano, or
Yeah, absolutely. Because what I remember doing was, so I had the kind of like, I knew sort of how to play. It wasn't like I was learning. I knew
Mhm.
sort of how to play. But what I would do is I'd be like, right, I want to play these songs that I love. So how do I play them? I'm like, well, I know the par chord on the guitar, so I'll play a par. It would be this ding ding, okay, and they'll play that on the piano, and that's kind of just what I did. So I learned that backwards. It was really odd. It was really odd, but it was really cool. And it was also really cool to have something else I could sort of play to
Yeah.
give me kind of like a wider perspective on things. So yeah, that's what I did, and I soothed my musical trauma. I took back the piano. Sort of. I'm not very good at it, but I can play it enough, and enough to be enjoyable.
Yeah.
Is what I think.
And that you're interesting when your influence you mentioned was John Williams, and
Mm.
Williams now, if I'm remembering correctly, is actually I think 93 years old. I
Yeah,
think I remember
93.
that thing. So do you envision yourself still doing this at that age?
I'm not. To be alive would be one thing at
Well,
93.
I actually think, yeah, no, I think that too. But you have to also remember that life expectancy is going to keep increasing. So maybe by the
Yeah.
time you actually reach that age, people are like, he's only 93. Like, my
Hmm.
uncle's like 120.
Yeah. No, I'll be bringing the average down the way I live. I'm joking. Um, he's the best. That's I really my big I think when you're making music, because I'm recording it and producing it all the time, and so it's music my day in day out. It's music in my ears constantly and constantly and constantly.
Mhm.
The way I now would listen to songs and things like that is I'd hear something new and I'd be like, damn, why didn't I think of that? So it's always the work hat is always on. And then, there are lots of moments when it's not, and music is so special and so great and you're not thinking about that. But a lot of the times it is. So I would escape into movies and movies that would make me feel, movies that I love. And I have a big relationship with Steven Spielberg and John Williams movies. They really, really inspire me. And I've always absolutely loved them. And I think they're the best. So yeah, John Williams, and I'd occasionally just listen to a soundtrack and of his, and just there's so many. There's of course the greats, but there are so many lesser known ones that are just wonderful and great in their own right, but also wonderful companions to the movies. And it's how he manages to capture what the brief. I imagine Spielberg and him are talking, and it's he'll Steven Spielberg telling the metaphor of the unconscious of the movie, and then he just nails it.
Yeah.
He just nails it. But I don't know if that's answering your question, but that's how I
No,
feel
I
about
think
it.
that collaboration is very important. I've
Yeah.
actually spoken to artists who've like written, like composed for films, and I'm always
Mm.
kind of interested in like that kind of relationship between the filmmaker and the composer. And I asked like how much autonomy you can get. The one I always think of, it's very strange. I always think of I forget the name of the girl. It's Helena something or Helen something. I can't remember, but she's
Mm.
an Icelandic composer, and she actually
Right.
did the soundtrack for the Joaquin Phoenix Joker film, the first one.
Okay. Yep.
And it was
Wow.
very interesting because like normally you're watching the scene and you're composing as it goes, but and that was an interesting scenario where I believe the script was written, hadn't been shot yet, and they just gave her the script and said, right, like based on that, the atmosphere. So
Wow.
that whole thing, like the whole
Wow.
soundtrack, say they had the soundtrack before they even like, well, it was probably they're probably shooting the film at the time. I don't know the chronology, but like
Yeah.
she was composing just based on the script, and then they matched it to the film when it was complete.
Wow. That's so cool. So she just had the screenplay and
Yeah,
went, how does this make me feel? How does this? Yeah. And I mean, if the screenplay, if this, of course it is in that
yeah,
scenario, but if the screenplay is good enough, I guess
yeah,
you can feel where it's going, what it feels like. It is a really, as soon as you said it, that, I've only seen that movie a couple of times, but the score, not so much melodically, but there's a real feeling in that. And this, I immediately think of there's like a cello. There's a really
yeah,
prominent, scary. It captures. It's great. It's really great. Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
definitely. That's so
Um,
interesting. That's
is
so
that something you'd
interesting.
be interested in composing for film?
Um, I've done it a couple times just as like a little project, and it can be really entertaining. I like writing songs. So it'd be cool to do a song for a movie. If there was a pitch for a song, and that would be cool. I think that would be maybe my stronger suit, but never say never. I don't know. I don't know,
That's
maybe.
something you don't see anymore. I remember like growing up, like every
Mm.
film would have like a song, and like they would do the music video where like the artist is performing, and then they incorporate
And they
clips
didn't
from the
go.
film.
They just cut in, yeah,
Yeah.
really clunky bits from the movie. Yeah,
The
yeah.
one I'm thinking of was this is one that came to mind was Goo Goo Dolls Iris.
Yes.
That was I don't know if it was written for the film or if it was just featured on the soundtrack, but it was on the soundtrack to I think it was called Angel. No, it's not Angels in America. City of Angels or something. It was like
Right.
a Nicolas Cage film that was like a remake of Wings of Desire. I've
Right.
never seen the film, but like it's very funny because like the music video is very iconic. But then like there's the scene where like they're looking out a telescope, and then like it just cuts to a scene from the film is what they're looking at. But the one I remember as a child was uh, Chad Kroger's song "Hero," where it had
Hero
like the
in.
Spider Man.
Well, I rented on Amazon Prime the other day. I say the other day. Was it 2 nights ago? Spider Man.
Yeah, yeah.
And we watched it. But yes, I know that exact because I've seen the video and I was like, what the? And there's a really funny story about that because well, Spider-Man 2 is one of my favorite films of all. I think it's an
I agree.
absolutely
It's
watertight. It's one of
amazing.
the great movies of all time.
Yeah.
Easily, easily.
I did they did a re-release last year. They brought all the Spider-Man films back, and like
Uh,
I hadn't seen that film in years, and but
mm,
like I watched this so much as a child that
yes,
like I was like, oh shit, I remember it all. You
yeah.
know?
It is. It is one of the. Is one of the, everything works in that
It's
movie.
just so
Everything
exciting too. Like
so
it's like
exciting.
there's that scene where like it's like I was like, oh fuck, I remember how this made me feel as a child. There's that one scene where like Spider-Man singing, swinging through the city, and he goes in between the truck and it's low. It's like, and it's like that's just
Boom.
great. Yeah,
It's so good. Do you know my favorite bit of that movie? My favorite bit of that movie is when, um, he's umming and ahhing about what he wants to do with his life, and
yeah,
then he's talking to Aunt May, and Aunt May tells him, there's a hero in all of us, and then he gets
yeah,
to talk, and he understands that he's not doing it for himself, he's doing it for his community, and and the people he loves, and then he goes to talk to Mary Jane in the car, and then he goes to find her because Doc Ock's taking her away, and then he
right.
goes and they fight, and it's the train.
Yeah,
That whole
the
train
best
sequence, but
scene.
the best scene. But what is so my favorite bit is when he gets knocked off the train and hits the road,
Yes.
and then he spins his webs, gets
Yeah.
dodges the cars, and gets back up, and the music crescendos, and it's the perfect that 3 4 seconds is the perfect metaphor for what he's gone through and what it is just it is wonderful filmmaking. It's one of my favorite moments in anything ever. It's so
And one
great.
thing I'll say is, if you watch the trailer for that film, because I remember when that was coming out and like the hype around it, if you watch
Right.
the trailer for it, it's like it just pinches your nerves. Like it's like
Yeah.
I forget what song they use, but they use it's not one of Danny Elfman songs. It's like a classical piece they use, and it
Right.
just it's just like magnificent. It's just like oh my god, it gets you so hyped and like it
Yeah.
kind of really puts and like and that's the problem sometimes. I'm like, well, it's just nostalgia or it's just, but I think it's just effective filmmaking
No,
in my mind.
I think it's really fun because I watched one again there. I used to watch one a lot, and I was able to watch one and go, nah, I don't know how that feels now, or I don't know how that actually. I think we're pulling away from the story, but two is just
Yeah, two is
this
just
is
great.
just this is unreal. Anyway, yes,
Actually, I have to say the first Spider-Man film scared me a lot as a kid. There's so many
terrifying,
scary elements, like all the
terrifying.
jump scares and shit. Like I
Mm.
remember the one that really used to get me. I actually be anticipation was when he goes into the burning building and he turns around
Oh,
and
it's
screams.
so good, so good. We were
And the other
watching,
one is these are the two that stick in my mind. The other one
yeah.
is when like he Harry finds like his dad on the ground and he's like, last night it wasn't just this quick jump scare.
Oh,
Like,
it's so
oh, that's
last night.
so piece of me.
And then there's even that random one. There's a random one again.
Oh yeah, where he pops up, yeah,
Yeah, and
in
it's
his
all
sleep.
like blurry and yeah.
The funny thing was, I saw them again. I went to see the first three in the
Mm,
cinema when they were re-released last year,
mm.
and I'd forgotten about that one. And it actually did get me. I was like, "Fuck!"
Actually, yeah, oh, yeah, I wasn't ready for that. That's the thing. Yeah, it's a really well.
Sam Raimi's a horror
Sam
director.
Raimi, and I watched all of Evil Dead for the first time
Oh, I
like
fucking love Evil Dead.
last week. Like for
Oh
the
yeah,
I'd seen bits of, but all the whole way through.
yeah.
What a crazy
It's
movie!
so good. Like
It is. It
Evil
is.
Dead 2 in particular really made me want to go into film. I don't do
Right.
filmmaking
Right.
anymore, but like that was one where I'm like, fuck. It's like what I think is so great about Evil Dead 2 is that like and you see this in the Spider-Man movies as well.
Mm.
And even the doc I don't know if you've seen the Doctor Strange movie did. Like you see just the filmmaking on display, like the cameras, and you can just
Yeah,
picture like the guy running around with a camera and stuff, and like the
absolutely.
scene of like the point of view scene, the demons going into the cabin, and
Oh
it's
yeah,
just
yeah,
like
yeah.
so good.
It's so good. And Sam
He's one of my
Raimi's just
favorites.
yeah, he's one of mine too. He's just he's so great, and similarly to Spielberg, I remember reading somewhere that someone said, in order to be great at the blockbuster filmmaking, great ones cut their teeth on horror, and
Yeah,
because they understand suspense, they understand, and it's like you think about the great Spielberg movies, and you think how like horrifying and certain numerous parts of those movies are, but they're not. You
yeah.
don't. The takeaway isn't that was a horror movie. The go away is, oh, that was an adventure movie. But actually, like there are moments that are more horrifying and troubling than a lot of what would be
Especially
considered.
Indiana Jones movies.
Spectacle Temple of Doom
Yeah,
traumatized a generation, didn't it?
I remember that. I remember the heart scene. I'm like, how did this get
Mm,
into a PG film?
yeah, yeah, yeah. And I remember going to see War of the Worlds in the cinema
Yeah,
when I was little, and it traumatized me.
I actually haven't seen War of the Worlds, but yeah. So what was scary about it?
Oh, just oh god. It's the fact that it's a film that is so full of dreads, because what he did was he kind of took that post 9/11 American fear and
Yeah.
mixed it, in my opinion, mixed it with a lot of other horrendous things. Like there was kind of almost like a sort of, because he'd done Schindler's List, and there's almost sort of like a
Mhm.
Holocaust undertone to it, and but it's what he does in his unconscious that makes it particularly troubling. You got this family coming together and struggling to survive against these aliens, but it's what he does that is unlike, and it's really like the film gets slagged off a lot, but I actually think there are certain moments, or particularly the first third, which I think is some of his best work. It's so brilliantly directed. um
I'll add it to the watch list.
well, there you are. It is not without its faults, but it is one that I
Well, it's
think
certainly
has its
better
great
than the War of
moments.
the Worlds that came out this year, I
Well,
guess.
yes,
So.
yes, yes,
Which again
yes.
I haven't seen,
I've
but
seen
by
bits of.
reputation, you've seen
I've seen bits
it.
of. I mean, it's unwatchable. It's
I
actually
love,
unwatchable. It just
I love
takes. It
that
doesn't give you. It
Ice
just
Cube came
takes.
out. Ice Cube came out was like, yeah, we just filmed it like in a week during COVID or
Yeah,
something.
yeah,
Like his
yeah.
bits are all
My
filmed.
favorite things are the bits that pop up, the like the reels that pop up, and it says,
Yeah.
"I'm 99% sure this is the first time Ice Cube read the script," and it's great. It's
Hey,
great.
paycheck's a paycheck,
A
man.
paycheck's a paycheck. I mean, from Boys in the Hood to that is
Yeah.
something.
Ice Cube
Is
is actually
something.
pretty good. I remember like kind of growing up when like they were doing like Ice Cube family films. There was always movies like Are We Done Yet and stuff like
Oh, are
that.
we done yet?
So,
Are we there
yeah.
yet? Are we?
Yeah, Are
Yeah,
We
yeah,
There Yet?
yeah,
That was the
yeah,
other
yeah.
one.
Oh God, yeah, yeah. Jeez, do you
It's like, let's
remember?
make Ice Cube the dude from NWA. Let's make him a family star. It's like, all right. Interesting
Absolutely.
trajectory.
Absolutely. Oh God, I feel like I'm talking more about movies than I am
No, I'll get
music
back
here.
to it, but there was one more point I wanted to
Of
make.
course,
Yeah,
of
I
course,
thought
of
was
course.
interesting. Actually, two more
Yeah,
points
yeah.
quite quickly. One you were talking about Spielberg, and this is something that always fascinated me. He's done it three times now, and I don't know if this fascinates you as it does me, but
Mm-hmm.
like three times this has happened in his career that I'm aware of. Maybe it's happened more. So in 1993, he releases Jurassic Park and Schindler's List the
Yeah.
same year.
Mm-hmm.
2005, he does War of the Worlds and
And
Munich,
Munich. Yeah.
and then 2011, War Horse and Tintin.
Yeah.
I'm always like, how the hell does he? Because like you watch one of those films, you'd be like, okay, you can
Mm.
take a break for the next few years,
Yeah.
and we
Yeah.
put
Yeah.
some both out at the same time. There was an interesting YouTube video I watched about someone was documenting like how Spielberg actually did Jurassic Park and Schindler's List kind of
That's a great
simultaneously.
video. That's a
Yeah,
superb video. Yeah,
really
I
good
know the
video.
one. I know the
Yeah.
one. Yeah.
And it's like, the mental toll that would have took. Because, like,
Yes.
Schindler's List, like, it's so intense. Like, I actually used
Mm.
to get quite depressed. Because we used to show in religion class here, actually.
Right. Right.
And then I watched it myself. Because, like, it was one of those things that, like, you'd have the, like, this used to happen a lot when I was in school. So you'd have, we had a religious teacher who was always, it basically religion class just became like, let's show you films. It's like, it's like whatever.
Sounds
And
like the best class ever.
yeah, well, one of my lecturers, he was like a big film nerd, like in a good way,
Yeah.
and he would just show stuff. So he showed us Schindler's List, but like obviously it's a 40-minute class, so he shows us like
It's nearly a
basically
3 hour
parts of it.
movie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Like over say the course of three classes, so that's like
Mm,
2 hours. So we don't see the whole bit. So I kind of got the understanding of it, and then I watched it myself, obviously afterwards. But like that's such an intense film. Like
yes.
like with so much research and so much history, and then just so much emotion and told. You think of
Yes.
obviously Spielberg himself was Jewish, and that's part of why he wanted to do it, was to tell that story while the people
Yes.
who were in the Holocaust were still alive. The people
Hmm.
who survived the Holocaust were still alive and tell their story and stuff like
Hmm.
that. And you go like, that's so emotionally draining. And then he makes like one of the biggest blockbusters
Considers of all
ever
time.
at the same
Yeah.
time, and like such an innovative film for the time. That's
Yes.
using like CG and using like animatronics and all this.
Absolutely.
Like, could
It's
you?
wild. It's wild. It really is. And there's a common thread across Spielberg's work that makes you, I think, when you leave the cinema for days, you can't
Yeah,
stop thinking about it. And in the case of Schindler's List, it is the main story is the Holocaust, and that's and you got those scenes, and bear with me here. And then Jurassic Park, you have
absolutely.
dinosaurs, and everyone's like, "Oh, it's dinosaurs." But what actually makes you leave those films is that what you're seeing in the unconscious, and what you're seeing, and it's quite obvious in places, but there's a lot of things that aren't so obvious. Is that you're seeing things that we can all understand, whether we have had good relationships or bad relationships or both, is a family. And that's exactly what's going on in both those films. And they're actually particularly similar in that it's the reluctant father. And so Oscar Schindler, metaphorically, is, his children, metaphorically, are the Schindler Jews. And that's what he goes through, a trial, and he goes through an understanding that really what he's meant to do is, and what's more important than money and stuff, is becoming a metaphorical father and a metaphorical protector. And then in Jurassic Park, you've exactly the same thing going on. You've got a guy who's obsessed with dinosaurs and obsessed with things that are dead, and then he needs to go through a trial to understand that that's not what's important in life. What's important in life is his relationship and protecting these children. And so they're actually metaphorically extremely similar movies, but looking at different things, and we remember, oh yeah, but they're so different, when actually I think unconsciously they're very, very similar movies, and they have a similar takeaway in terms of what makes us remember that. It is how it made us feel. And that's the Schindler's List is extremely powerful and extremely harrowing, but you come away feeling this. I remember watching it. I just every year or so I'd watch it, and I remember watching it, and I felt tremendously inspired. Which is not what you think you would come up, but I felt tremendously inspired to be a better person, or to
Hmm.
take ownership of my life. And that's what he's doing. He's showing a guy go through these trials to then become, you're one person, you can make a difference. But really, he's taken care of people, and he's gone through, in our evolutionary brain, he's become a father, and he's become a protector, and it's hugely inspiring. And then I remember Spielberg, we got a lot of criticism for saying, "Oh, you made a hopeful film about the Holocaust," and I think that's really short sighted, because I think the point of art um, is to
That was a
inspire.
criticism also of a film that came a couple of years later that I can't remember if it won Best Picture, but it definitely
Mm.
won a bunch of awards. Life is Beautiful, which again I
Yes,
haven't seen, but
yeah,
I know
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
criticism. I don't
It's
know if you've
brilliant.
seen it. That was good,
Yes,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. It's brilliant.
But that
In
was a
fact,
criticism of it too. It made a hopeful story of the Holocaust.
yes. Well, but I mean, it's like I it's but certain people did wonderful things, and there's a deeply human story about how you can do the right thing, even when it seems so difficult and so impossible, and in your life, and in whichever, how small an area of your life. And I think that is so important. It also got across the horrendous elements of the Holocaust. But
Yeah.
it also, I mean, that's the point of art, is that I don't think there's much of a point. Just for me, everyone can argue this. I know it's subjective, but I don't think there's any point in watching something and feeling something if it doesn't tell you about yourself and how you can become a better person. It can be as little as possible, but that's the things that really attract me to art. And I think that at the same time, it told this amazing, harrowing story. But I think it's wonderful. But there's my piece on there's my piece on it.
No, but that
Probably a
is
lot of people be
interesting
like,
because like I do
Trustful, what
think
the fuck?
the family true line is something of Spielberg's, because like,
Yeah.
and then when you watch the Fablemans, it makes sense.
It makes sense. It
It
makes
makes a lot
absolute
of
sense. Yeah,
sense.
yeah, it makes absolute sense.
Yeah.
It's really, really cool. But anyway, sorry, waffling on at you there, but
No,
yeah,
no, absolutely. No, I find this very interesting actually. So,
mm,
you're not waffling on to me.
it's
I actually am interested in the film analysis.
awesome. Oh, well, we could talk about it for hours. We could
Yeah.
talk about it for hours, I'm sure. Or I'd
One
talk
last
at
thing, and
you.
I'll go back to your music now
Yeah,
in a
yeah,
minute. But
sure.
one other thing you were mentioning, with Spider-Man 2, Danny Elfman obviously did the
Mm,
score for that one.
mm.
He didn't do the third one. I think they had a falling out or
They
something.
did have a falling
Yeah,
out.
but I
Yeah,
think he came back for like Doctor Strange, so it's all good now.
right,
Whatever
right.
happened, but Danny Elfman, obviously, Tim Burton, he's probably most associated with. He started kind of similar to you with Oingo Boingo, like doing kind of
Right.
like traditional kind of, it was like a new wave band kind of
Mm,
doing, I guess, the traditional band thing, and then transitioning into soundtracks. So I was wondering, for you, I mean, how do you kind of feel about like that career trajectory, and that you kind of like, get your bones doing the typical
mm.
band thing or the typical performance thing, and then eventuating into it?
Well, that would be awesome. Danny Elfman's just wonderful. But my goodness,
He's
he's I
so
hate
varied. He's
and so
so
varied,
varied.
so varied. But I mean, so talented. I hate that word, but I really hate that word. But he really is. He's just got this amazing ability. I would never be able to do that. But he is just so intricate and so wonderful, and really, really impressive. And obviously has this amazing classical ability, a math, almost a mathematical ability. You listen to
Yeah,
so. Have you ever? There's a video of a guy covering the Simpsons theme on piano, and
yeah.
it's like, how do you come up with that? How do you like? It's just the jazz and
Yeah.
the ridiculous chromatic bits, and it's crazy. It is absolutely crazy.
And I
But
don't think people like really think of it, like myself included, like
mm,
whether you're a musician or not. Like I think people just hear the Simpsons theme. It's a song you've heard all your life growing up watching that show, and it's
mm.
just like the Simpsons, and then you just hear it, and you're just kind of like, it
And you
feels
know
right.
and it just
It's
feels
yeah,
right. Yeah,
it
yeah,
just
yeah,
feels
yeah.
right. It's so correct you, but you don't actually think of the mechanical process of
No,
actually crafting that. You know what I mean? And
absolutely.
then
The wow, wow, and all the
bu- 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 bu-
weird stuff. Yeah, yeah, and all the diddly diddly diddly, all the
and actually,
strange stuff.
if you think about it, there is a part of that song, even though it's a very quick song, it's only like, I say, 40 seconds or something. I don't
Mm.
know how long it is actually offhand, but like there is a part where it draws attention to the fact that it's a song when Lisa does the saxophone bit.
Yes,
So it
yes.
actually is kind of like, it tries to pull you in and go, hey, pay attention to the instrumentation a
The
bit.
instrument, yes, it does. It does. There's that break, and it's different a lot of the times, isn't it? They
Yeah.
change it
Oh,
a
do they?
lot of the
I
times.
didn't even know.
Maybe
So
that's
there you
wrong.
go.
Maybe I got that wrong. But I hear it in my head. It's like
Maybe they do. Yeah.
yeah. I
Maybe
think
that's
they
like the
might.
improvised section.
Yeah, I think they might. I think they might. It's not so. It's so sad how we've lost that.
Yeah.
The great, great, iconic nature of openings. Of opening
Well,
sequences for
the one that
sitcoms,
fascinates
TV shows.
me, and I apologize, I don't know the composer's name
Mm.
offhand, but the Seinfeld theme song.
Yes, right.
So what I loved about this, because someone did like a behind the scenes thing of how it does. So it has that famous slap bass, right?
Mm.
But it's not
Yeah.
actually bass. It's still on a synth. But
Oh, right, right.
here's the thing that's interesting. So the dude, so typically how a Seinfeld episode will open is, it'll be Jerry doing the stand up piece, and then the theme song plays, and then the episode kind of starts, right? But someone did like a behind the scenes thing as the show was airing, and what he does is he actually listens to what Jerry's saying, and then does it live basically, like to try and match the rhythm of
Wow.
it. I'm like, so every time you're listening to that, it's a
Yeah.
unique performance, and I just
Performance.
don't think most people like even really pick up on that.
It's. I mean, maybe it keeps things. Yeah, I think the unconscious is so much more. That's what's so cool about it. It's so powerful
Yeah.
that you probably pick up that there's something, and you can't put your finger on it, but it feels fresh. It makes you feel a bit more invigorated and a bit more present. But that's so cool. I didn't know that. That's very cool.
Well, let's go back to your music then. I
Oh,
do,
God.
and it's on me. I diverted this a bit.
No,
So
no,
when
no. I
you
loved
were
it.
talking about your influence, and one you didn't mention that I thought was quite pivotal to the music you're doing now is obviously Bruce Springsteen.
Yeah.
Um, When did you get into Springsteen, and how do you think he's kind of influenced the music you're doing now?
I first got into Bruce Springsteen when I was about 15 years old because I'll tell you exactly I would read Q a lot, Q
Yeah,
magazine back in the
he was
day.
great.
It was great. And
I was always a Mojo guy personally,
oh, right,
though.
okay, fair enough. Well, fair enough. I have a whole few old copies of Muju somewhere, but
Yeah,
I remember seeing Born in the USA, um, and it got a good review and stuff. Just they were doing throwbacks and stuff, and I
yeah,
went,
yeah.
"There's Bruce," because I would just listen to, I was trying to build up my musical repertoire, and I'd be like, I just want to listen to classic artists and great albums, stuff like that. Da, 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 da. And I was very much into U2. That was within the last year or so, and so it was about 15. And then I remember doing a spin class in school. They had someone come in and they played music to the spin class, and he would talk because he was great. The guy was super. Don't know his name, don't know anything, but and I wish I could meet him to be like, dude, you changed my life. But he Born in the USA, the song was one of the songs that he on there, and I remember pedaling, and I remember going, "There's something primal, there's something so incredible about this." And then I bought Born in the USA, and liked it, and listened to it, and then but what really changed everything was like a year or so later, and I was kind of listening, and I heard that album, The Rising, that he did in 2002. Um, After 9/11, in response to 9/11, and there's a song in that, the first track. It's one of my favorite albums ever now. But the first track on that is a song called "Lonesome Day," and it just touched my soul. I was like, "This is it. I'm in too deep here. I'm in trouble." And that did, and then after that, I think maybe I had "Born to Run" first, but I just listened to albums, and "The Darkness on the Edge of Town." And I remember the moment. I must maybe it was a bit later. I was maybe about 17, and I was listening to "Darkness on the Edge of Town," that album, a lot. And I remember "The Promised Land," and I remember specifically walking outside and the line, um, uh, "I've done my best to live the right way. I get up every morning, go to work each day, but your eyes go blind, your blood runs cold. Sometimes I feel so weak, I just want to explode." And I remember going, "This is." I'm in very deep. This is too
Yeah,
this is too far gone now, and it really just became a slow, steady, then fanatical. Um,
yeah,
and he's an artist that keeps uh, changes your life constantly, and you see things and you feel things that you didn't feel in songs. The older you get, or the more experienced you get, suddenly something else grabs you. And for when recording this EP, or the last song, I it's a collection of songs, but the last couple songs I was recording, which is this all the first song on the album, or the EP, and then That's What Won't Stop Torturing Me. For those ones that I was recording within the last few months, I was listening a lot to is of Nebraska, My Father's House, which just didn't. It was always kind of there, but then I heard it, and I was in tears, and then I kept listening to it over and over again. It's a trauma response. And then
mm,
and that's the thing, he just sneaks up on you every now and again. There'll be something you listen to in a different context, and it'll just change things. Yeah, brilliant.
I find it interesting about artists like Springsteen. I actually think it's probably true of even more contemporary artists like Green Day, for example.
Mm-hmm.
When you have these artists who've been kind of around for a while, but their output is continual, I wonder, like, because there's like as you mentioned, it's kind of similar to U2 and Green Day, where it's like that dude's just going to be playing like arenas and stadiums until
Yeah.
he decides to retire. Um, so I wonder, like, are people keeping up with his latest output, or are people just going to hear Dancing
Yeah.
in the Dark and Born in the
Yeah.
USA? And it's something, it's interesting too. I think of like some artists like Bob Dylan and some artists like Van Morrison who are
Yeah.
still going, but they
Brilliant.
kind of refuse to play Subterranean Homesick Blues. They're like,
Yeah.
this is they might do like one classic song,
Hmm.
maybe,
Hmm.
but but like for the most part, and even then it'd be like rearranged and it'd be doing their own thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Springsteen's kind of the opposite. He will play the hits, like he knows that's what people want to.
Yes.
So I was because like I've worked. at Van Morrison gigs and at Bob Dylan gigs. Not to any great capacity, but I've been I've worked this.
Awesome.
I used to work in live events,
Awesome.
and you know, people would come out and they'd be like talking to you, and like so many people disappointed. But it was very split. But for both Bob Dylan and Van Morrison, it was
Mm,
very split. Where like people come out because that's like the best gig I've ever been to, and then people like
yes.
that was terrible, it was boring. Springsteen, I've also worked at one of his gigs at the RDS Arena, and unanimously people love it.
Yeah.
So I was wondering, like, do you think people who are fans of things like are actually kind of keeping up with the new output, or do you think they're just there to hear the hits?
I think it depends. I really do. I think, he is a way, Bruce Springsteen is a way of everyone will go, and even someone who's a vague notion of Bruce Springsteen will love it because he
Yeah,
does do that. He does play the hits. There's a thing amongst his fans, like who I've got to know from, queuing to see him. There's just kind of this love of everything from, Greetings, you know, his first album up to about Tunnel of Love in 1987. And I think that's kind of, and then they just don't really stray on from there. And some of my favorite work, one of my favorite albums of his it came out in 2011, it's Wrecking Ball, but it just doesn't get a look in because I think there's kind of like this bias towards, his peak years.
yeah,
He's, I think and every now and again he'll bring out an album with certain songs on it that are his best work, but it's the same with you too. It's just the people who kind of, the people who define the fandom or people who were, it's a generational thing when they were at their biggest, and they'll just always be like, oh,
yeah,
that was the heyday, that was the da, 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 da. But for me, who wasn't alive at all, thought of when he was, or you two were their biggest points,
mhm.
you pick it up as let's just listen to it all and see what you
Just
like.
you think
And
of it
then,
more as a document
yeah,
of, yeah,
exactly, exactly, because if you didn't grow up with it,
yeah.
you don't have those kind of like
I have a weird thing like that too, where
nostalgic.
like, for us, like maybe American Idiot would become that for some people.
Well, exactly, and they'll be listening. They'll be like, "No, I think Dos Trey's better,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, probably. But
Maybe.
I do find it interesting because like I'm similar to you, where it's like stuff that kind of comes before my time.
Mm,
I view it as a document of the time, but it
mm.
doesn't have that like freshness of like, oh yeah, I was around when that came out, you know
Yeah,
what I mean?
exactly,
And I wonder, do
exactly.
you get more precious about that when you were actually there? Because like I think of like some of the stuff that came out when I was young,
Mm,
and to me, maybe this is very arrogant, but like
mm.
everything that kind of came out in my lifetime seems recent.
Yeah, yeah,
Where
yeah.
anything that comes out before me seems like, oh, that has history.
That is just no,
Where
exactly,
maybe I just
exactly.
don't realize how old I actually am.
No, no. I think that's fair. I think that's just the way we look at things, and that's just. I think that's just it. But it's always going to be the way. But I think, you know, particularly in the case of Bruce Springsteen, it's there's just so many great songs throughout and recently, and he's done so many great great things, and that's what it is. It's great to be able to just listen to it and go, I'm going to put aside. I'm not a fan of the new stuff. Put that aside and just listen, because I think so much of it is a bias. It is really that bias that you mentioned, I think.
Let me tie it back to something you were talking about earlier, actually, with your own career. So you were saying sometimes you go back and you can hear sort of production mistakes or
Mm,
areas where you felt you weren't as well versed in as you are now in
mm,
your technical playing or maybe your singing. I
mm,
don't want to surmise, but do you find like as someone who actually does follow Springsteen's career kind of from the beginning to where it is now, do you notice an evolution in him as a player, as a singer, and more importantly, as a songwriter? And do you think there consistency between the albums he's been putting out for like the last half century, which is crazy to think that's like he's been
crazy.
going around that long, but do you notice like a consistency between what he's singing about, what interests him, or do you think because this is something I think about too, like you have
Mm,
people like, Springsteen who's singing about, day to day life and, kind of the working man's soul.
Mm.
And like, but he's been a celebrity for like the last, certainly in our lifetime, he's been like,
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
massive celebrity. And that's
Hmm.
something I always worry about. Like, like do people, it's actually big with comedians. So you
Mm.
have these comedians who are like making jokes about, day-to-day life, and then they become millionaires
Yeah.
and they become kind of detached, and people say, oh, well, the new output isn't as good because clearly, this comedian isn't living with day-to-day people. Does
Yeah.
that make sense?
Of course. I think uh yeah, Bruce Springsteen will say himself that he's never worked an honest job in his life, and he'll say that, and then everyone's you sing about the working man, and I get it to a point, but I also don't, because I think like his metaphor is his metaphor is the working man, cars, escape, and he's the resilient songs about trying to better your life and do the best you can despite your circumstance. Those are He packages them up in a way that becomes that everyone can understand instantly. Working hard and da da da. But just like we were talking about with Spielberg and and Schindler's List and Jurassic Park, there's a unifying metaphor there, and I think with him, there's a unifying metaphor that everyone, no matter who you are, can understand. I don't have to have labored on the docks to understand his songs. There's a human element of struggle that I think gives him right to do that, and also his experience with his father
Yeah.
is so important. And it's like, yeah, you can, yeah, you're a multimillionaire, a billionaire, you can't sing about these things. And it's like, well, if it makes my heart do that thing when I listen to it, he has all the right to do it, in my opinion. And that's what I still feel that, because he has a great, obviously a great understanding of the human condition, and doesn't matter, he can package it up in that way because that way clearly works. And that's just what I think.
It's probably a very weird parallel. I don't know if I'm the first to compare Bruce Springsteen to Taylor Swift, but I think with
Yeah.
Taylor Swift, and she had, for all intents and purposes, quite a normal background, and she is from Nashville, I believe, and
Yeah, I think yes,
she
yes.
worked like a farm, a Christmas tree farm, I believe, which is like, I don't know how that's profitable all year round, but that's apparently where she grew up on. And she was like bullied and kind of excommunicated in school,
Dear.
and had typical heartbreak that a lot of teenagers had. And now,
Yes.
like, she still writes about like kind of music about feeling kind of unloved and sort of unwanted and stuff. And you
Mhm.
think like you're the biggest pop star in the world, like you have legions of fans. Anywhere you go, you're going to fill out stadiums. I wonder,
Yeah.
does some things just not leave you? Does those kind of fundamental experiences you have earlier in life
Yeah,
just kind of resonate still?
I think
True of all artists, not just Taylor, of course.
yes, I think absolutely. I think the stuff that happens to you in your um formative years, just they don't leave you, and they inform a lot of what you do and how you get on with life. And actually, the older I get, the more I realize what's informing me unconsciously that I couldn't have told you 10 years ago. And I think in the cases of great artists, I think that's exactly what's going on. And I think in the case of being like a singer in a band or being a frontman or something like that, you've got to be. I think it's an attention thing. It doesn't mean it's a bad thing, but it's an attention thing. How am I going to get people to listen to me because I feel like I wasn't listened to, and
Right.
I'm going to have a microphone. So
Yeah. No.
people are gonna have to listen to me. I think
No.
in I
Absolutely.
think that's the thing. And I think those sort of formative, I think there's something about, you know, how do I explain it? There's something about control, being in control, um, that I think unconsciously a lot of people who do this are trying to reconcile. They're trying to gain control of things by, being the loudest person in a room, saying something loudest, or getting their emotional state. It's their therapy. They're trying to
Yeah.
tell people in disguise, because you disguise them as songs. Well, they are songs, but you disguise them as, dress them up so that you're not just sitting talking about how you feel. It's in a way that people can feel and get unconsciously feel, your lyric. It's not like you're sitting there. It's not poetry. It's in disguise. Um,
Yeah.
and I think I think everyone's trying to reconcile with things in their past, or things in their current. But I think a lot of it is, as you say, with Taylor Swift or Bruce Springsteen and things and upbringing. And I think that's always going to have uh, a, it's always going to have an impact on their work, no
Let
matter
me
what
ask you.
age. Mm.
Let me ask you: Is Bangor your New Jersey?
Bangor's, yes, Bangor is my New Jersey. Yes, it's a
Well,
town
you
full of
mentioned like
losers. I'm
bringing.
pulling out of here to win. Yeah.
Well, yeah. To the extent that I know about Bangor, I know it's like it's pretty industrial, right?
But it's no, I mean,
Or
it's
maybe
a
that's my
lovely,
stereotype.
lovely. It's a lovely, lovely city. It's a nice city. It's a lovely, lovely
Yeah.
city with lovely, lovely people. We do have an industrial estate. I'm not really one to know about the rough industrial working class Bangor. But it's a great place. It's a cool place, but it does, I think there's something, there's something about, um, you know, suburban life that I grew up with, and wanting to get out and explore, and just wanting a bit more, and I think, yeah, and I think we're always connected to our places and stuff like that. And I think it's really interesting, when people go to uni and things like that. There's so many people who are screaming to get away, and they're very vocal about screaming to get away and hating
Yeah.
their hometown and things. And I think it's actually a really interesting, it's a really interesting, and I've tried to write about it before, but it's a really interesting thing where people are so, they're trying to run from there because they think it'll fix all their problems getting away somewhere, when actually I think a lot of them realize that when they get to this place, that the things they wanted to run from are very much within themselves. And I think they take those
Yeah.
things out in their home. And there's a great Bruce Springsteen song called My Hometown, where at the very end it goes, it's last night me and Kate, we lay in bed talking about getting out, packing up our bags, maybe heading south. We got a boy of 35, got a boy of our own now. Last night I sat him up behind the wheel and said, "Son, take a good look around. This is your hometown." So that perfectly encapsulates, there are certain things that you cannot escape, and who you are and where you've come from are one of those things, because it is you.
Yeah.
And that's what I think about that. Sorry, I can't remember the question, but that's what I think
I was
about
asking,
that.
was Bangor your New Jersey?
Bangor's out of Jersey. So yeah, I think I mean, your home is where that's, it's always be part of you. That's it.
I think it's an interesting point you made there, where certainly I felt it too as an adolescent. You're like, I hate like I don't know if it's true like wherever you grow up, whether you grow up in an urban setting, a suburban setting, or a rural setting. You're
Mm.
always like, the issue is I grew up in this place, and if I
Mm.
can just escape it, it'll be
Everything
grand.
will be better. Yeah,
Yeah, and like I think like once you kind of get a bit maturity, and like you actually realize what you like try and make a living, like whether that's paying rent or paying a mortgage, you kind of go like
yeah,
it makes you more appreciative, I guess, of what your parents did for you, or your
absolutely.
guardians, or whoever raised you. I know everyone's family dynamic is different,
Hmm.
but using say the typical parent dynamic, you kind of go like, oh, they at one point were like me, and they had to like decide to buy a house and
Yeah,
pay a mortgage for 20 years
yeah.
or something.
There's something as well that happens that's really interesting when you stop looking at your parents or your guardians as your guardians, and you look at them more like you,
Yeah,
but at a different time. I think, is that universal? That's what I remember
I think
feeling
so.
that moment. I remember feeling that moment, and
I
that's
know.
real
Actually,
interesting.
maybe it's just my internet, my algorithmic feed or not. But I'm noticing a lot of people now are comparing themselves where they are now to their parent situation, where they're like,
Yeah.
at my age, my parents were getting married, they were having
Mm.
kids, they had a house, and like I'm renting and I don't have anyone, and
Fighting in
like
the first Gulf War,
yeah,
or
exactly.
whatever.
It's
Yeah, 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 yeah.
you're just like, yeah, like I think like I was actually speaking about this to an aunt recently,
Mm.
and like it's like the dynamic for her daughter compared to where she was and stuff like that, and she's like she just kind of accepts it's like it's just different now. I don't know.
Mm.
Like she's like,
Yeah,
if I was in her situation now, I probably wouldn't have done the things I've done. Like I wouldn't have had the
absolutely.
opportunities to do the things I've done. So it's
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely.
I wonder now with life expectancies going back to that thing, like are people
Yeah,
just like being like, some people are like saying like, ah, my 30s are my new 20s, and like is things just going back a decade?
And COVID knocked a whole half a
Yeah,
generate not half a generation, but a considerable amount of time. It
absolutely.
knocked that and put it to school. So I think that's changed things. People are only discovering themselves a bit older, and
It's
you
kind of
know,
crazy how recent COVID was and how
yeah,
distant it feels. I've
it's
spoken to so many artists and
yes.
like and people
It
now.
feels like another life. It feels like a
Yeah.
very, very distant memory, actually, to me. It really does. That's 5 years ago.
What were you doing in that time? Were you performing at that
So
point?
I was performing as much as I could, but I was really just I recorded and I did a number of songs, and I did one song, and then for charity, which is the one thing I remember about it, I did one
So sorry,
song.
just to go back 1 second.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
what's the current solo project you're doing now? That had already begun when COVID started, or did that come
Um
after?
that was so no, that was just before. I started it just before, so it's been about 5 years.
Yeah. So you just started just before COVID.
Yeah, so just before, and then COVID happened, and I hadn't really worked out how I wanted to do live. I was just kind of playing. I was living in London just before COVID, and I was just playing just solo myself, which I still do when the lads can't back me up.
Did you go to London to pursue music, or was that just coincidental?
Yeah, no, I was in London. I was doing a master's in music,
Okay.
and went, and then I just gigged all the time and worked in a guitar shop in Denmark Street as well, and just struggled through it. Learned a lot, learned so much, but struggled through it, which was cool. But just an adventure, really. And I love London. It was tough at the time, but I love London, and I love going back to London. Because I have a grounding in the city, and it was home for a long time. So yeah.
Every time I go to London, I want to get perspective for someone who's lived there.
Mm.
I find it to be a labyrinth maze.
Oh yeah.
It's insane to me. Like I will literally right walk down the street, and I'll look back, and the street I just walked down is not the same as the one I just
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
came.
yeah. Oh, it's
I
easy to get turned
cannot.
around.
I cannot situate myself anywhere when I'm in London. I get so messed up. Like if it wasn't for the underground, I
Mm.
would have no sense of direction there. Like I honestly, like I use Google Maps. I have to when I'm in London. I have
Yeah,
to use Google Maps. I'm like, I don't know how people got around, before. Like obviously locals know the area, but like, you hear all these stories. Oh, people went to London in the 80s to, get work or whatever. And I was like,
yeah.
how?
How
You get to London and you're just like, how do you know? If
and
someone
without
says
Google
it's on the
Maps, without
street,
anything, yeah, they just did
yeah,
it.
I
They
have
had an
no
A to
idea.
Z. They had an A to Z. Have you ever seen those little books? They had A to
Yes,
Z,
yes.
and they just did it. But you see, in 20 years' time, it'll be like, how did you get around without the Google chip in your brain? Oh, we just had to use our phones.
Yeah, yeah. No, but that's the thing. I just like, but as someone who's lived there, does that go away, or is it always just a maze?
um you become so I remember being out wandering around in the middle of the night. My phone was on 2%. I was like, I'll find a way home. Your threshold for you know looking after yourself goes way down,
Yeah.
way down, or at least mine did. And I kind of worked it you kind of work it out, and the underground is phenomenal. It's an
Yes.
engineering marvel. It really
The only
is.
thing is, because of how big London is and how critical the underground is, it really needs to be a 24-hour service.
It does, and I've heard a lot that London is just since COVID, it's just not the same city in terms of
Yeah.
transport and things staying open later. It's just not the same,
Oh, the
which is a real
transport there
shame.
compared to here is amazing.
Yeah,
Like
that's
I
true.
came back to Dublin after like being in London, and
Mm.
like I had to wait at the bus. It was like 17 minutes, and I was like, I'm home. You know what I mean? The first
Fantastic.
bus I had to come back was like 17 minutes away. I'm like, yeah, and like Londoners give out if their train's like 4 seconds
Yeah,
late.
but that's the thing. You then just become so grumpy if things aren't like perfect, and you're like, "Hold up, this is a miracle. This is an
Yeah,
engineering miracle." And you're
even their
complaining.
buses like run on time. Like the only thing I'll say about that we do better, I think, than England is that um our buses actually tell you which stop you're at. That was one thing.
Yeah.
I was in Liverpool like a couple of years ago, and like I had to get off at a specific stop, and I didn't know how many it was because like they don't tell you. It's not
Did
like
they not tell you? My
they don't tell
goodness.
you on in Liverpool.
In Liv-
Well, at least the bus I got, they
mm,
didn't tell you. And the only reason I knew to get off was there was a mass exodus at one point. And I was like,
right.
oh, I guess this is the place. Because I don't know if you've ever been to Liverpool, but there's a huge distance between the John Lennon Airport and the city
Right.
centre. It's
Right.
it's like a 40-minute bus ride, or maybe even
Really?
more. Yeah, it's a
Right.
long ride. It's it was the same like going from Dublin to the city centre. It's probably
Yeah,
similar,
yeah.
but it feels really long, especially if you don't know the areas. And yeah, once you get into the city center, you're kind of grand then. But like, I had no clue where I was going, and I was
Yeah.
just like, I wish it would just tell you because I knew the name of the stop, but I didn't know it was a stop. You know?
Yeah, I've never been to Liverpool. I've got friends who live in Liverpool, so I need to go and visit, and I need to play there. I'd love to play there, but I just
Yeah.
haven't. But I'll make sure to avoid the
You gotta play
buses.
the Cavern Club.
Got to play the Cavern Club.
It's
Yeah,
still
yeah.
open, like it's still active, and like I was
Or an
there.
open mic or something. I've seen people doing open
Oh yeah,
mics and
yeah.
all sorts there, and so
Like the actual city
that'd be
center is
it.
quite small. Like you can walk around it like in one go,
Right,
pretty much. But it's very
like
nice. But like
Belfast.
the
Yeah.
actual place is very, yeah, like Belfast. Like yeah, I was actually recently in Belfast. And I was in the kind of like I got off at the what do you call it, the Grand Central Station there,
Yes. All
and
right. Okay.
so it's kind of in that square where like everything is,
Yes.
and
Yes.
like where all the high streets are and stuff like that. And I was like, oh wow, it's a big square.
It is. Yeah. It's really compact. It's
Or big
really compact.
rectangle more so,
A
more
big,
rectangle.
yeah, and you're into Cathedral Quarter as well, where all the pubs are. It's really you can just walk
Yeah,
it, and then there's a few. If you want to go to Titanic, you can walk it, but it's quite far. But it's all
yeah.
very contained, and it's a wonderful city. It really is just come along so
I
much. Like
love it. And
you
people
just
out there are so friendly.
yeah, too friendly.
So
It's you're like,
friendly.
what do you want from me?
Yeah, because I come from Dublin where like everyone, like people are friendly here too, but like
Yeah,
everyone's just so busy and insular and just like talking
sure,
around really
sure.
face. And then like I just go to Belfast and everyone's just like,
What's
well,
going on?
comparatively chill.
Oh dear.
It's just like,
That's but that's it. That's it.
let's talk about First Whisper then in the show.
Yeah.
It's just your latest EP.
Yep.
Yeah, I was wondering maybe you could talk a little bit about like the build up to this because as you mentioned, you
Sure.
put so much like effort into this. You know, like the promo, the rollout. Would it be fair to say this is kind of like your most dedicated project to date?
Yes. Yes, I would say that. The first EP I put out felt like I'm very proud of it, but it was my strongest foot forward in terms of these are the best songs. This one feels like they all belong together very much
Yeah.
so. It's streamlined and it is a it's how do I put it? It's a it's a cohesive project. It's art, maybe more so than the last one. And I'm really happy with. I think in terms in those terms.
What was it set up to be a cohesive piece, or was it just the songs kind of came together?
So it actually, so I start just putting things out as singles that I like. And then what happened was I knew I wanted to do an EP and I wanted to do a launch because it felt like the right sort of time in
Mhm.
my career. And then those songs just, they all started. I was thinking about maybe writing something completely new, but then all those songs sat brilliantly together and I was recording other bits. And I went, this will be great next to that. They all have a sort of feel to them, a message, and then the Springsteen cover at the end, I think it was just the icing on the cake. And I remember thinking about it, and it all came to me the flow of it quite quickly, and I went, well, that's exactly what needs to be done. And yeah, I'm really happy with how it goes. 1, 2, 3, 4, and yeah. So that's kind of what happened. I mean, I put out "Love Is Gonna Hurt This Way Forever," which is the second track. I put that out last year, late
Mhm.
last year. So it is a long time, but I feel like
So it wasn't like an EP tease; it was just like it was a single.
it was a single, and then I went, no, this belongs with the other tracks. And the two that I released, off the bat, just there, the last couple of months was "That's What Won't Stop Torturing Me" and "Is This All," which opens the EP. And they, I think they just fit it in. It's because if you wait too long, whether you want to or not, I think your writing style, not your writing style, but just what you want to say sometimes changes because you're
Yeah.
living, you're living your life, and that's just what happens. But with these ones, I feel like they are all very much a chapter, and they have a similar sort of sentiment. They have a similar sort of feeling, at least to me. So that's what I'm really happy with.
Um, for you, what does this EP kind of represent?
Um, oh God, I think it's
Sorry,
yeah. No, you're good. You're
that
good.
wasn't the reaction I was thinking. Oh
No.
Jesus!
Oh Jesus Christ. No, there's so much in it. It's looking at I always look at myself, but I think in this one it's there are songs like "Love Is Gonna Hurt This Way Forever," and "That's What Won't Stop Torturing Me," and even "Is This All." Those three of my own songs, they kind of look at being the best you can, legacy, trying to be, try and be the best version of yourself for someone, or someone allowing you to be the best version of yourself. Or it's hard to explain. I mean, is this all is it's very critical of oneself, but then it opens up to, you know, finding a moment with someone where something makes sense, not necessarily in a romantic way, just in a way that is, you know, you understand things a bit better. And it's looking at legacy. The chorus, "You're right before my eyes every day of my damn life," is the soul. And that's quite, you know, that's like the mirror, you know. And that's, you know, you're working with legacy and what you think you should be. And then I think the middle verse then looks at, you know, it can be, for the listener, it can be a person, or it can be a moment or a thing, sort of like an epiphany, where, you know, with someone, where you realize that their love is home, and that's actually what makes you, that's worth living. That's what makes life worth living. And I think "Love Is Gonna Hurt This Way Forever," I did that as well. So there's similar songs in that, you know, it's starts off looking internally and looking at the pains of love. And it's, you know, the first chorus, I think, you know, it's, "I don't want to know the pain, I don't want to keep on breaking, but love is going to hurt this way forever." It's like, it's a negative thing. And then the middle verse is someone taking you out of that slump and accepting someone else's love, and them accepting yours despite your faults. And then I think the second chorus is much more triumphant. "I don't want to know the pain, I don't want to keep on breaking, but love is going to hurt this way forever." It's more of a, isn't it great to feel that? And isn't it, this is the part of the life, you know, it's part of pain. Is pain makes things worth it. And I think that's, so those songs are similar. And that's what "Won't Stop Torturing Me" looks at, you know, love, and it looks at self, in a critical self. So there is constant themes, I think, that are there, not necessarily intentionally, just what I was writing. And that's why I think it worked on EP, if that makes sense. I'm just
It
working off the
does.
cuff here, but if that's kind of what I'm going for, I
Let me
think.
ask you a bigger question now,
Mm,
based on what you were saying there.
yeah.
Love despite faults. If only people who had no faults could be loved, how many people on earth do you think would be truly loved? Except maybe Jesus Christ, but
Yeah, well, that's
yeah,
it. The fault,
yeah.
that's the humanity in it. There's got to be humanity. And I always think, maybe just because I see myself, but the songs that really appeal to me are songs that try to do better. You try to do better, and you acknowledge your hardships, which is, I've never really been a fan of angry songs about someone, or diss track. That's never appealed to me, because
Mhm.
I just don't think it. I don't think it's what really turns me on to music or art. What turns me on to music and art is submission, and submission, but in a way that is resilient. If that makes sense. It's about striving to do better, but understanding that love and you doing your best for others is the most important thing in the world. So that's what I think I try to go for and try and understand. And maybe it doesn't come across that way, but it's certainly what I like to think I do consciously. And then unconsciously you let the pen run, but you try and join
Yeah.
the dots. And so yeah.
You spoke earlier of music being a form of therapy for people. I would also argue that it's a form of meditation. You know, it is a meditative process to actually sit down and craft. So I was wondering, with meditation, as a practice, is that it kind of, it's meant to make you reflect on yourself and reflect on others, and you know, if done right, hopefully have a more positive and humanitarian element to you and to
Mhm.
others. Do you find that the art you're creating is affecting you as a person beyond, you know, when you're on stage or when you're recording?
um yes, I find I've, you know, it's really interesting, that made me think of is when I'm writing, or I actually sit down and consciously go, I'm going to write, I get very nervous and very worried, because I put a lot of pressure on myself for my lyrics,
Hmm.
because I think it's everything. But I it's hard to go there, you know, and it's such a delicate operation in my head, that you can go there and you need to get the right amount of, you know, working at it to enter into that place. Because if you go too far, then it can become contrived or too much, and then you come back to it and you're like, what was I thinking? So you
Sure.
just need to get it just right. So I actually don't like going there a lot. Sometimes it just comes and you're like, oh, here we go, right, I gotta hit it. And then, you know, you let your conscious run, and you join up your unconscious run, and then you join up the dots, you know. Because I usually, the way I do it is I be singing in certain certain words or a certain line or something would um would happen, and you'd be
Hmm.
like, right, let's obey that, and let's then work out my theme. And then suddenly you can work out a theme where you're like, I really want to sing about that. And then usually then I can do the verses, certain lyrics would come out, but then you join them up in a way that makes sense then to what you're trying to discover yourself. And that is it's
Sure.
meditation, sure. It's just it's a voyage of self-discovery that you then go, okay, how do I make this make sense then? Because if it was all just, it could just be abstract and that could work. But the way I want it to be is I want to actually then have a little bit of, okay, no, this is stronger, this is stronger, this is better, that needs to go there, and then I map it up. But yeah, that's exact meditation. That's really good point. It is self discovery.
Yeah, well, I think the actual to expand on what I meant also was
Mhm.
that I think the actual process of sitting down and writing. I don't know how you do putting pen to paper, or
Sure.
if you use a laptop or what you do. I'm very mechanical. Like I like pen and paper kind of shit.
Awesome. Yeah.
I'm old school. No, I
Awesome.
do like even like I'll be like around with friends or something, and like they'll be using like the notes app, and I just never think to do it. I'm
Yeah,
always
yeah,
like,
yeah.
I just want to write something down. But even that process of penning your lyrics and kind of expanding your lyrics is meditative in the sense that with meditation, I think the kind of stereotypical view is like, a monk like folding your legs going, hmm.
Mm,
But I think just concentrating on the present and just focusing on, okay, I need to write this. There
yeah.
is a meditative process to that, like just in a mechanical sense too. It is just kind of like, getting rid of the noise and just sitting
Mhm.
down and focusing on something, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's exactly that's exactly it. And I guess it's what I'm not very good at is cutting out the result. Do you know what I mean? Just doing it.
Hmm.
It's hard to shut off the part of your brain that is result driven. Right, I got to get a song, because that can come at the expense of the whole the whole damn project. You do you
Yeah,
do you write songs, Aaron, or
I
as
have.
well?
Yeah, I have in the
Yeah.
past. Yeah, I've been writing kind of music just like this is what I did. I was having this existential crisis when I was turning 30. I was like,
Mm,
oh my God, I'm so old. And I was like, I had all these songs that I sat in. So I was like, just as a document, I'm just going to finish them. So I gave myself a month, like a little under a month, just to
awesome.
uh, finish the lyrics because they're all half written,
Mm,
put them in the demo, and then just like just it was very bare bones. It was just like me in the thing. It sounds like shit. And I was just like EQing all myself, and I have no experience in
sure.
audio. So I just put it out as a demo. I think either the day before I turned 30 or the day I turned 30, just as
Mm.
like, here's some documentation of the shit that I was interested in. And some of them, it was funny because as I was doing the process, I was coming up with new shit too.
Yeah,
So it's like
awesome.
I added to it. So yeah, so it's kind of
That's
a medley
class.
of like my life in a way, but are kind of like some of my creative process in a way. There were some I didn't put on, some that I thought were a little too I don't know, immature, could have been taken the wrong way or something like that. But
Sure.
yeah,
Well, that's great, because that's there's just so much. There's so much when, like, what I'm doing and things I'm thinking about in the back of my mind. Well, what did fans like? What did this person like? Or what did I like? Or what did well? And you start thinking commercially almost.
yeah.
And it's great to just hear, like what you're saying there. You wrote completely for yourself and completely purely. And then as soon as, I'm sure, maybe not, but maybe as you did that and put that out, there was a certain weight or a certain area that just was like, okay, I'm at
I
peace.
just
A
I
little
didn't
more. I'm a little more
expect.
at peace.
Well, I wasn't yeah, kind of. I wasn't expecting any kind of fame or anything from it. I wasn't
Mm,
expecting any results. I had no aspirations really in becoming a musician. It was just
yeah,
more. I was actually doing one of these interviews, and I was kind of like, yeah, I have all this material. I just wanted to exist.
yeah,
So that's kind of why I did it. Like, I was just like, put it out there, and I haven't listened back to it since. So I don't know, like some of it, I don't know if it'd be embarrassing, but the interesting thing, when I was a kid, I used to play in bands, and I only ever did one gig, and it went terrible because the sound engineer was like, we didn't have a sound engineer, so we just had to do it ourselves, and the only
yeah.
thing that was mic'd up to the to the what do you call it,
The
the
desk or the
no, the
PA,
what do you call it, the things in front of the stage,
PA, the
what's it,
monitors,
the
monitors, the
monitors. Yeah, I
monitors.
couldn't think of the term. Sorry.
No, you're okay. You're
That
okay.
shows you how they am. But the only thing that was hooked up to the monitors was the PA system, so all you could hear were the vocals,
Right.
and you couldn't hear the instruments properly. Well, I couldn't. I don't know what the audience heard. So
Yeah, yeah.
it was just awful. It was an awful, and we weren't very good anyway as musicians. But I kind of had this thing where I was like, at that time I really did want to be a musician, and I sort of had been reading books by bands that I liked and stuff like that,
Mm.
and all of them said like our first show was shit. Like there was like 12 people or something, and no one liked
It's
us,
a
but
big
you just
crowd.
keep going, and that's how you do
Just
it.
keep going.
And
Yeah.
so I wanted to do that, but like the other band members were really deterred by that gig. But one
Uh,
thing it was interesting because we were doing a mix of covers and originals. Because at the time I just wanted to do originals because like I have the songs, but
yes, yes.
at the time it was like the expectation was you just do covers,
Mm.
and every band just was like, okay, learn all these songs, which is interesting now because I think the kids that kind of came up after me don't do that anymore. They take pride in the
Sure.
fact that they don't do covers. They're like, we're original musicians, and
Yes,
that's kind of
yes.
where I wanted to be. I just want to do my own songs, even if they're shit. Now, so, like a lot of them were because I was like 16 at the time, 15, 16, and it was like very immature and
Mm.
very like just not very well thought out, like the lyrics I was singing. But
Mm.
I had this thing where it's like we would sing other people's songs. I don't know if you've ever had this. I'd be singing other people's songs and be grand. But then when I
Mm.
sing my own originals, I get very nervous because I'm like, well, I'm putting this out into the world now. And what if they laugh at it or they think it's embarrassing or they think it's cringeworthy or something?
Yeah.
So I had that self consciousness about here's me kind of expressing something,
Yes.
even when I was 16 and kind of stupid, it was like still I had that kind of cognizance that like I knew I was immature in a way, and I knew that I kind of subconsciously perhaps knew that these weren't very well thought out lyrics.
Mm. Mm.
So I was like, oh, and I'm playing to a room of adults, and
Yeah,
like, are they
yeah.
going to just like be like, what the,
Like, what is this?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Like, well, that's really sad to hear because I think we put so much
I don't think the world lost anything by that band not being successful though.
I could, but that's the thing. It's just striving and striving and striving. That's really sad that you put because I mean, even you've got something to say and you say it, and then
Mm,
there's always uh, clearly with yourself and with myself, there's a need to speak and there's a need to
yeah.
be heard that is hard to satisfy.
But the good thing, I think, actually, reflectively, that I never like recorded anything or never put something out is that at the time I was just like had this, I think this is true of like a lot of adolescents, like
Mm.
just generalized disdain, kind of
Yeah,
similar to what you were saying about the hometown, but it's like it was
yeah,
everything. It was big structures, man. I was going to take down the government, and I
yeah,
was going to,
yeah, yeah,
take down all the institutions that were pissing me off, and
yeah.
um, I didn't have any awareness of any of those things really like structurally or anything. Like I had no idea to focus it, so it was very generalized and just angry and bitter. And I always thought
Yeah.
like the government was going to hear this go, oh, the
We
government
fucked
as
up.
the thing. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, we got to do something.
We
They're
gotta
onto
fix it.
us.
Rage,
Um,
rage, rage against the machine,
but
kind
the
of.
other thing, well, the thing about rage is that like with that anger, I've calmed down so much as I've grown up,
Mm,
and kind of it's like I think a lot of that was very negative, you know what I mean?
yeah.
And it's like I don't know if I'd want that out there. Like even if like it was only heard by like two people or something on a blog or something, it's like I don't know if I necessarily want that out there. Even the demo I did the when I was 30 is like some of the songs there, even now, only a little time after, I'm kind of like, I don't know, like
Yeah.
there was some
Well,
stuff I said that I kind of because wasn't written it was written in a place where I was like kind of anxious. So some of the
yeah.
stuff I kind of go, maybe that was a bad message, but
I think I think
whatever.
I think I think it's so interesting. Rage. Bono says that rage is rock and roll. That's what rock and roll is. It's
Yeah,
rage. Yeah. I think the thing that I think well for me it's rage is misplaced. I think there's a lot of it's just a lot of it's more yearning than it is rage, and there's a bit of
yeah,
sadness and there's a bit of trying to just rectify things. That's where I'd come from. But I think what's interesting there is I'm ashamed isn't right, but a bit cringy at certain things I'd hear, and I'd be like, I'm in a different place now. Why did I write that? But look, I think the really cool thing is, and I say this, I was talking to someone about, certain co-writes, and, certain, you're pushed in a certain direction, or someone wants you to
Mhm.
do this and they think that'd be best for you. And I kind of made it in my mind over the last year. For a long time, I've thought this, but I kind of made it in my mind, I'm very open to collaboration and things, but I want my mistakes to be my own. And so
Yes,
I think
yes.
that's a big part of this, is that, at least you can look on that and you can go, well, if I feel I made mistakes, at least they were my own and no one else's. Wasn't listening to someone else who was telling me what they think I should be doing 100%. And I went with that, even I wasn't sure it was right. And now I look at it, at least you're
Yeah.
going, no, I was keeping myself truthful to the writer and to the vision, and the vision. You can't get it right all the time, but at least you can be truthful, or at least you
Yeah.
can try to be. And that's what I think. I think that's the difference. That's the
Well, this is probably a strange parallel to that, but that's kind of one of the reasons why I started my own website. So I've been writing for
mm,
other blogs, and one blog, and I'm not trying to shit talk anyone because they were very nice to give me an opportunity, especially
yes,
like when I was starting off. But one editor I was really dissatisfied with because I felt like I just had problems with the way they would edit, because like I feel like they didn't edit too diligently, so often
sure,
mistakes would get put into my
sure,
work that were not my own. And
sure.
sometimes I would send things off that had mistakes and grammatical errors or misspellings or something. And like, if I would catch that and I would look at my original piece that I sent, I would be totally like mea culpa.
Yeah,
Um, but I was dissatisfied with the editing of one of the places I was writing for, because it was always like I'd read them with dread, because I'm always like, oh God, is there going to be
yeah,
mistakes in this? And like, I don't know how widely distributed a lot of those things were, so I don't know how many people were actually reading it or cared. But it was just like little things. It was very minimal, but it's like, that thing of a death by a thousand cuts kind of thing.
yeah. Absolutely,
So eventually I
absolutely.
was just like, I just want to have editorial control over what I'm doing. I still write for other places, and
Yeah,
sometimes that can happen, but even I catch myself doing it on my own website. But it's a bit different because I have the power now to go back
yeah.
and re-edit after the
Oversee
fact.
it.
Yeah, where I didn't have that control, I was just submitting stuff and then it was there. And
Yeah,
if I did want to correct something, I had to email people, and it was just a big,
and a big
ordeal.
hassle.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was like, oh man, like sorry about this, but blah blah blah, I
and
fucked
then
up
you
here.
feel like you're being annoying, or they're like, oh,
Yeah, exactly,
resentful, and
exactly.
that's really
So,
tricky.
so that's kind of why I started this. But I was talking to someone else. I won't say their name, but someone else who started kind of creative endeavor, sort of like my own. And we were kind of we had a similar experience. I don't know if you relate to this, but we're like, all the hard work that goes into it, and it seems like the work you put into your creative endeavors is disproportionate to the actual results you see.
Mhm.
And we're kind of thinking about it. It's like, part of that push is naivety, where you kind of go like, oh, you want to create something, but you kind of like, you don't think about the actual work that you'll have to do to maintain it, and then the feedback you'll get.
Yes.
But we both kind of came to the conclusion that if you could go back to yourself and go, hey, just before you start this, here's what will actually entail, and here's the results you're
Yeah,
going to get.
here's
And
the
but would you actually sort of go, I'm not interested in that, or would that fire still just exist where you go, no, I
it's a
still want to do this?
I don't even that's a great question. But I don't even want to think about that, because you're
Yeah,
absolutely right. If you knew the truth of what you had to do, you probably wouldn't even do it, or you would be extremely deterred. Like I approach recording and things like that. Like, maybe I'll get magic in a bottle like
yeah,
this, and you're kind of hopeful that you'll get. And then when it's a real struggle, but the thing is, it's what people say. It's like pain is temporary, and it is so true. Like, it's hell at the time, but then you look back and you're like,
I'm glad I did
you
that.
hear things, and you're like, I don't remember recording that.
Yeah.
Panned over to the left hand side of the stereo image. I don't remember, but it sounds great. It's so flipped it, and then that's the reward. That's the, how did I do that? Or wow, or that's not so good, but
Yeah,
it's part of your artist. And that's the thing. And it just goes back to that need to create, that need to be heard, unconsciously, that I think we all have. But I would hate to be given an hours of what it would take. I would hate that. It'd be horrible. I don't know
there
what
was
you think,
someone
but
once said. an older person was interviewed and they said, God is good because he doesn't show you your future. I'm like, yeah, that's
Yeah,
true.
yeah. It'd be because as soon as you know what you're going to do, it becomes a prison sentence.
Yeah,
That's the thing with you having your free will. It's like that's great. You may do things that that's the distance between your present self and your future self is that it's not done. It's the feeling of being in control, not so much
yeah.
actual control.
But for yourself, do you think about like what's your perception of time in the sense that
Hmm.
are you thinking about the past and thinking about the future of everything you're doing, thinking about what's coming forward? Are you just very in the moment, like very present, like okay, this is what I'm doing now. I'm
Hmm.
recording this on Thursday, and then Friday I'm going to play a gig, and then
Hmm.
Saturday I'm going to do some more recording. Or are you
Hmm.
kind of like, well, once this comes out in 2 months, I'm going to go on the road and I'm going to try and get
Yeah,
these shows and stuff. Like, how present are you and how future tense are you thinking?
I think very in the future because I want to make sure that I'm doing loads and I'm keeping very busy and that
Yeah.
my future self then looks back and goes, oh no, you actually did do stuff. So but I do think present. I'm like, right, I got to get on with this. I got to do that. But I find it extremely difficult to enjoy the moment. Well, I did that sold out gig, and once it was done, I had this horrendous creeping anxiety that what if that's a one off and I can never retain an audience like this again? That's my first, and I mean, like that. That's such a not silly, but I think to myself, like looking back on it, it's such an unfair thought because I rob myself of achievement all the time, and that was a big achievement, for
Yeah,
a
absolutely.
solo artist on their own doing, not that I had band, but my name is solo, and it's that's tough. But I rob myself of the moment constantly. But that's just how I am.
But even
Um,
if it was a one-off, isn't that a feat in itself? That's something
I'm
you'll
sure,
remember.
yeah, yeah,
I'm not
absolutely.
trying to just be. I'm not trying to placate you. I'm genuinely saying, like, isn't like that's
No,
a perspective.
no, I appreciate that, and I think you're right. It's just this insatiable hunger to just try and I don't know. I'm trying to fill something, and but that's I want to make sure I keep. And it was wonderful, and the thing that's really wonderful though is, and that gives me joy is the relationships I have now with fans. Actual people I don't know who I know through coming to my gigs or heard my music and stuff, and I really really cherish that, and I really appreciate their inputs. And
Yeah.
that's a lovely, lovely feeling. So that's why I take that as a wing. But it's just all the things that last and the things that make you you acknowledge it. You acknowledge your achievements. Or it's just in the relationships with people, and that's it. That's the one thing I find. It's great to hear your music being played on a radio station or something, but you got that music there because you sent it to someone and you struck up a conversation with them, and,
Yeah.
and that's it's all it really is. I've never really thought of that before, but it really is just relationships and people who believe in you and then you believe in them, and like what we're doing
Yeah.
right now in your wonderful blog, and
Thank you.
there are lovely chats, and I think that's really what gives the makes it worthwhile. So try to be in the moment, and that's maybe a better way of thinking about it. Rewire your brain to think it's wonderful that I'm meeting people who are passionate about things, creative things, and that's it. It's maybe
Yeah,
the
and life
way
is so random too, you know?
it
Like
is.
you never know. Like, oh my God, dude, like you listen to people who are successful and then like years later they write their autobiographies or someone
Mm.
else writes a biography about them and it's just like, yeah, he was having lunch in this cafe and like some dude came over and it's like,
Yeah, yeah, and
you
that's
know,
it.
there's always those like little random moments. That's the thing
And
too about autobiographies. I don't know if you agree with me with this. I don't know if you read many
mhm,
autobiographies,
mhm.
but it's always like I don't know, like sometimes you go, yeah, we went through years of struggling, but that's like a paragraph maybe, you know,
Yeah,
just
yeah,
like,
yeah,
and then we did this show, and then you know we met, and I think it gives you a bit of a false perception because the idea is that like it was these opportunities are going bang bang bang, where it's like there might
yes,
have been like months in between where it was like we couldn't pay our rent or whatever, you know what I mean,
absolutely.
or
Or they go backwards. It always
yeah.
seems like a but there's actually moments where they go backwards. To be honest, with a lot of autobiography stuff, I don't know how the hell I remember it all. Like
Yeah.
I've read like incessantly, like obsessively, U2 by U2, and
Hmm.
I just like, how the hell did they remember all this? And I guess
Yeah.
they have loads of archives or other people who come to them and say, they probably have a large team that are just going, well, you did this gig, and oh
Yeah.
yeah, and then Edge is like, well, do you remember you? Oh no, I don't. And then whatever. But
Yeah.
yeah, they're interesting. They're really interesting. But it's always this. because that's how they sell the story, don't they?
Yeah.
It's just an uphill trajectory, which it isn't. Can't be always.
I remember when I was in that band that I was telling you about, um I'd read the biography of the band Syphil Fingers. It was called Kicking Up a Racket.
Right,
And what's
great.
interesting is at the back page, so they initially ran, they're still going, but they initially ran from 1977 to 1983.
Mm.
And if you look at the back of that book, they have what do you call it, like a gigography of like all the gigs they did in that time, like from the very small clubs up
Mm.
until as they built. And the reason they were able to have that was because just as it was going, their bass player Ali Morty was keeping a diary of every
Like
gig they were
Morty.
playing. So it's just like today we're
Awesome.
playing here, playing. So they're able to have this compendium at the back. And I was like influenced by that, so I was like, I'm gonna write down every gig we do, one,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
one.
yeah. Well,
Yeah,
that's
but it's like
okay.
they remember the city, they remember the venue, and it's like because like a lot
Uh,
of those venues don't exist anymore, and you could imagine it's a scenario like that where if you have longevity, you'd be like, oh yeah, where's that? What's the name of that place we played in like Listow or something? You know
yeah,
what
or
I mean?
somewhere weird.
Yeah, because that's it. I think there's a beauty in that. I actually really enjoy when people go to like uncharted cities or towns, or sorry,
Yes.
not cities, but like towns and villages, and they play like some random like bar
Yeah,
or discotheque or something, and it's just
yeah.
like, oh yeah, but like the problem is like even I had a friend who was hip hop artist years ago,
Mm.
and like he played some weird club, and I remember the general location of it, but I have no idea where that. It was like at an inn,
Yeah,
and it was
yeah,
like
yeah.
this like stage at the side of an inn. I was like, I could not tell you for the life of me what the name of that place was, or even if it exists anymore. But I think
Yes.
there's a beauty to that if you just write down like all those
That's
details as you
that's
go.
such a great idea. It's good. The one good thing Instagram has given us is you can look back through and see what you did. It's kind of like a diary of where you've played and
Yeah,
the stuff you've done. That's the one good thing, I guess. But that is lovely that he did that. And I saw an idea, like
I
I
thought it
know
was very like forward thinking.
yeah, I was very forward thinking, especially then. That was really, really good idea. It's cool about playing the random places. I've done a lot of random gigs, and sometimes they're the absolute best. I'm coming down to play acoustically in on the 18th down in it's with Skyrocket. Where is it? It's not the Sound House. Where let me check right now. I'll uh see where I'm playing.
I'll try and get this out for then. I'll have to
Yeah, I
check
mean
it
it'll
out.
just be a wee acoustic. So it would be 20 minutes at Grand Social.
Oh, Grand Souls is a great place. Have you been
It's
there?
great. Yeah, I've never no, I've never been. So
It's
I
a really
think
nice
it's the
place.
smoking area, is it? It's Arcadia Nights.
Oh,
No,
it's they're
no.
doing it in the smoking area. That's cool. Yeah, they
Yeah,
have a
Grand
beautiful
Social
smoking
smoking
area
area.
there.
Yeah, cool.
That's
No,
crazy.
do
Yeah,
they do
I
is that where
actually do
culture
shows there
is? Is that
sometimes.
where that is?
So, yeah, so in the Grand Social, so when you walk in, there's a bar downstairs, this big bar area.
Mm.
And then if you go through the doors at the kind of back, there's like a little ballroom where they're starting to do gigs. They do a few gigs there every now and again, but
Yeah,
it's very
yeah,
small.
yeah.
It's to the left. And then if you take the right and go up the stairs, then that's the smoking area.
Yes,
And just
yes.
past the smoking area is the main ballroom where like most of the gigs are done.
Right,
But the
right.
smoking area, they have done shows there now. I'm thinking I've never seen them, but I've seen like Instagram reels of like people
Yeah.
doing shots there. The smoking area there is beautiful because it's kind of
Class.
inside. You know the way you can't smoke indoors, so they kind of circumvent it in a way where it technically doesn't have a ceiling. I don't know
Yeah,
how to even.
technically.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like like they have a ceiling, but it's kind of like elevated, so you're
Sure.
technically outdoors.
Sure, high ceilings is okay. Brilliant. Well, no, I'm looking forward to it. There was another one he wanted me to do, but that I could. I mean, the cost of getting down back into Dublin. I always want to say yes to the gigs, but it can be
Yeah.
quite a lot. So I try and take them when I can, and and
Let's
do
talk about
them.
that actually, the material reality of being an artist. So could I
Mm.
ask if it's not a personal question, do you work full-time job outside of this, or do you work outside of this?
No, I
Or
well, I do this as much as possible, and then I work part time in film and TV as well.
oh, perfect. Yeah.
Especially last year. Well, it's really dried up this year. So I'm looking for other work in. I just got an email from a guy there who's looking for crew
So you
for
freelance, do you?
yeah, pretty much.
I hate freelancing, dude. It's the
Yeah,
bane of my existence.
it's horrible. But that's just look, it's just what I want to do, and I'm
Do you
fortunate.
get this a lot
Sorry.
in journalism? I want to see if you get it in your industry too.
Yeah,
A lot of hey, initial contact, then you give your details, and then just don't hear back.
yeah, absolutely.
Fucking hell.
I mean, it's all word of mouth. Every bit that I've done is word of mouth, and I just don't know what I'm going to be doing month to month, which is it's okay, but well, it just is what it is. But I just got to remember what I'm doing it for and why I'm doing it. And I've done corporate stuff before, and it's just not in my DNA. And I really
Mm.
respect people who can, because I just fucking can't. And
Yeah.
that's that. Um,
Let's ask about your project then. So your
yeah.
music project. So how did it eventuate into a band? Because if
Hmm.
I'm getting the understanding correct, it started
Absolutely.
as a
Yep.
home project solo thing.
Yep.
Actually, maybe if you just give a chronology of the project as it exists.
So I started it when I was living in London just before COVID, and I started gigging and stuff. And I kind of then it was really just taking control and going, I don't want to have to pay money for a studio, give my creativity up to someone, give da 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 da. So I'm gonna learn
Hmm.
how to produce myself, and that took me a while, but I think I've got there. And I had friends who were off in their bands and stuff, doing stuff who I'd traditionally played with, but I started just going on my own, but recording things as if they were a full band. And then once COVID had happened, COVID sort of stopped. I was back home, and I just took the people that I had, that I said, look, Danny, do you want to play bass? Tom, do you want to play guitar? And then
So
what I'll
sorry,
do
just
is,
before
sorry,
you go
yes,
there. So you're in London, as you mentioned, getting a
yes,
degree. So
yeah.
was the plan always once you finish the degree, you're going to move back home, or did you plan on staying in London, but then
Not
COVID fucked up?
not necessarily. COVID kind of pushed me back, and I'm very glad it did, because it means I was back here, and where I don't think I would have progressed as much in London, just because there's so much, and there's not necessarily at the grassroots level as much an appreciation for music
And
as there
London
is
is so
here.
dispersed. Like
So
the one thing
dispersed.
I've talked this to a lot of people. One of the benefits of living in Ireland actually is wherever you're from, whatever part of Ireland you're from,
Mm.
everything is centralized.
Yeah,
You know what I
sure.
mean? Where obviously in London you have so many boroughs, and dude, like
Yeah,
London has so much stuff going on.
so
Like I don't know
much.
how you gain traction there because like
No.
it's so big. It's like I'm trying to think. London alone would probably be the equivalent of like maybe a third of Ireland or something, just in size or something. I don't know
Yeah,
what it
just
actually
it's
be.
in terms of population,
Well, in population, they're way bigger than
more.
us,
Yeah, yeah.
but just in terms of like square kilometers, I don't know what it is offhand,
It's huge.
but
It's
like
huge. It is huge.
it's hard to even envision it in an Irish context, you know?
Yes, absolutely. And so it gave me such an understanding of trying to attract an audience who are there but not present, and what it
Yeah.
takes to just trying to. And I saw a lot of acts playing, and one of the main takeaways was how you put stories into your set. Like you would talk, and you would, and how that would, you tell something that would engross the audience, bring them in, and then play a song that was a representation of the story you tell. And that taught me so much. Watching people watching people, and all sorts. So I
So
carry
what
that
sort
with
of
me.
areas would you generally be playing? It would be like
Oh
Soho,
God.
Camden.
Oh, everywhere. Yeah, I did gigs all around there. Soho, Camden. I was living in Camberwell, so I did even stuff. Peckham, bits in Camberwell. New Cross. I played there. Everywhere that had an open mic. I remember Old Street had a good open mic, and then just gigs myself wherever anyone would have me. I did so much, which I can't even remember. In London you just go in the underground, and you just,
Yeah.
you're there. And so all sorts of places, just on my own. And that took a lot of courage, and looking back on it, just to go on your own and do that, because it's tough. That's really, really tough. So but I and then coming back, I COVID and stuff, and then my now fiance, we moved in together back here.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And I started just trying to make the band work, and I got a gig, and was like, can I maybe do drums on track? And then maybe, because I didn't have a good drummer, didn't know a good drummer, and still haven't convinced a good drummer. But it's kind of become our thing now, synths and drums on the track, and then the guitars and bass and saxophone now live. But that's how we started it. And I was like, is this even going to work? And it started to work, and we started to get good feedback. And then it just became like, just live is everything. I still think live is everything. I love bringing out the songs, but the songs exist so that you can capture people live. And that was kind of the journey. And then I've been gigging
Well,
loads and loads and
let's go
loads.
back for 1 second. So
Yeah.
just to clarify some stuff. So okay, so during COVID, you come back home. So you
Yes.
finish your degree at this point.
Yes.
So you come back and the people you're talking with. So had you already recorded material at this point, or were
Yes,
you kind of
I put out a couple of songs, and then during lockdown I put out a couple more just on my own. And the thing is, I've always just recorded them on my own. Now I would get like a drummer to just play along, for a drummer that I know in the studio, but not living here. that I just get to do bits and bobs, and then I occasionally get, guitarist, what do you think of this? You got any ideas? But really, I push it myself, because I was just like, I would need to get stuff done, and I would just kind of do it myself. And I like doing that. I also like collaboration, but I like, the control of that, and that's just what I started doing, and it's always been that way. And over lockdown, yeah, I put out a number of things, and then once lockdown broke and I started getting gigs. I then went. That's when the band thing started happening. That's when, I can't keep doing this on my own. I want people.
Sure.
Um,
And were
yeah,
these people you already knew, or were you
yeah, yeah,
putting in
yeah.
bands? Yeah.
No, these are people that I grew up with and played music with a lot, and they were doing their own things. So then they helped me out, so that was really nice. And they continue to help me out,
So
which is
before
awesome.
this project started, had you played in bands around the city and stuff?
Yeah, I had. Yeah, I had. I was in a band before band number of years ago that played around. It did a lot of the circuit and got quite a bit of traction. So I knew kind of what I had to do. It felt a lot slower this time, but now that I feel like I'm now at a stage that is comparable, if not much stronger. In fact, much stronger than that one was. So that was a good feeling when I finally, and that was a band. It wasn't, even though I wrote the stuff, and it felt very much more like a band. And I always kind of in the back of my head was going, you're kind of doing this on your own. Are you barking up the wrong tree here? So it was a lovely feeling when I actually, in the last year looked and went, no, you've outdone that project and on your own thing now. I feel like I've had to work much harder, but
Sure.
that was a lovely feeling.
And it was always going to be like, I want a core band that I can rely on, not session players.
Yes, yes. I mean, session play. You get in the odd session player when you have to, but I do have a band of fellas who are very, very good and very, very reliable and believe in it.
Yeah.
I think. No, they do.
Has there
They're
been many
great.
lineup changes over the years?
Just one or two, just one or two. So
Yeah.
I had a friend who moved to Liverpool, and we actually flew him back quite a number of times, and which is cool.
So
But
you had to take that 40-minute bus ride to this airport
yeah, I'm
sometimes.
sure. Well, you could ask him. You could ask
Yeah.
him, of course, about the 40-minute bus ride. But he's really good about it. But now I have another guitarist who steps, and then we found Evan, a saxophonist, and he's been playing with us for a couple of years. And his role in the band has grown and grown and grown to the point where it would be very, very difficult to play a full band without him, because he's so much of the part of the band now, which is great. And this is like a right hand man, and I love him to bits. He's brilliant. So that's just how it evolves, and you just gotta get people together and keep moving, keep moving, keep moving, see what works. And I've been quite lucky there. So
I'd actually, one thing I was interested in, I only realized when we jumped back on. So I don't know how I'm going to edit this later, but we did
sure.
this in two parts
Yeah, yeah,
because
yeah.
Mark had to dip out for a second. So in the first part, we were talking excessively about Steven Spielberg, and it was only in the second part that I realized you were actually wearing a Jaws t-shirt
Oh yeah, I
with the
didn't even
Jaws logo
realize
kind of
that
small.
too. I didn't
So
even
I was
realize
wondering,
that.
actually, you're obviously someone who's very interested in cinema. So
Mm,
do you find that when you're doing these larger projects, do you take any influence from cinema?
mm,
In terms of the editing style, the narrative style, the beats that
mm-hmm,
are kind of expected. Like, there's conventional wisdom tells you, for example, that within the first 10 minutes, you should have an exciting incident that kind of
yeah,
like gets the
yeah.
plot going. Do you feel like that, or do you feel like music is so different from that? Because I've spoken to another artist called Haunted Images, and he has a
Mm,
background in film, and
mm-hmm.
he said, yeah, very much the music he puts out is influenced by the kind of rhythm and the editing style of cinema. Does that influence you when you're making these larger projects, EPs and so on?
I absolutely, I think so. I'm very aware of the journey that needs to
Yeah.
happen. I think in every song.
The Joseph
Um,
Campbell Hero's Journey.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And
Yeah.
absolutely, and something has to. It's so easy, but something has to happen. Something, there needs to be a reconciliation, there needs to be an understanding, there needs to be a change in emotion, or a change in feeling, or a truth is unveiled. And that's what I try and do in all the songs. I mean, I think your unconscious is great at finding those things. If you watch a lot of films or listen to a lot of music, your unconscious will then pick up what you want. But then I stitch it together with what I think should happen, and then it's a great feeling when you sit and you play the song just acoustically, and you've got your notepad or whatever, you've got bits and
Hmm.
pieces of writing, and then suddenly you feel it, and you just, even in its bare bones, and then you go, oh, brilliant. Okay, I think I've got this, happens, that works, that. Or I played to Georgia, and she's like, yeah, I feel that. It's like, great, that's a great feeling. So yes, films, absolutely. They absolutely influence what I what I would write. Absolutely, yeah.
If this is a personal question, you could tell me to
Mhm.
fuck off. But I was wondering, are you and your fiance into the same music and film?
I think she has to be. Um,
It's in the prenuptial.
it's in the prenuptial. She has to be. I didn't inflict a lot of my movie, but we absolutely. She actually keeps a lot of that to herself, and we'll enjoy a lot of films together, and we'll enjoy a lot of music together, and lots of stuff. Paul Simon, for example, we both love, and that was very much, she, before we met, she was a huge fan, and that was one thing that we really had. And she had a
Connected
lot
on.
of Bruce Springsteen. We discovered U2 together, as in, well, I showed her U2, but she and Snow Patrol. But she knew, she's got lots of things and films and stuff that she's shown me. But we're really good at enjoying things together, and we do disagree, but it's actually quite rare. So I know that she's honest, which is nice, and I'm honest with her about things we like. But we really do have a lot of crossover, which is so wonderful. Yeah, it's really nice, and we share a lot of that together, and watch a lot of things together, and listen to a lot of things together. So that's great.
So I have to ask, do you think it would actually be, from your perspective as a creative, more advantage if you didn't have a lot of overlap in taste? Because then if you show her something,
Mm,
she goes, "This is good," something you like, and she goes, "This is good," you can be like, "Oh, it has a wider range."
yeah, I'm really glad. I'm really
Sorry,
glad.
I'm just sowing
No,
the seeds of
absolutely.
paranoia.
You're no, I really enjoy the fact that we appreciate similar things, or there's certain, because when I've got a song or something, I'll gauge her reaction, and and she'll feel it, and she'll be like, "Oh, I love that," or, and it feels like I'm writing for someone and sharing something quite personal with someone who understands where I'm coming from almost better than I do. So I think that's a real special thing, and I really, really appreciate it. And she's wonderful. So that's, yeah, so that answers your question, I think.
The other thing to tell you in media is when you're pitching a project to have the concept of an elevator pitch. The idea
Yes.
being basically, if you're in an elevator with someone for like as long as it took you to get from one floor to the next, you'd be able to say, "This
Yeah.
is the thing." The best example is probably James Cameron with Aliens. You know, he walks in, he draws Alien on. This is sorry how it goes. The legend. He draws Alien
Mm.
on a chalkboard, and then puts an S and makes it into a dollar sign, and that's how he sells
Um,
Aliens.
Amazing. And do you know what to add to that? Do you know what the elevator pitch, and I think it was literally in an elevator, for Alien was?
But
The first one, Jaws in Space.
yes, I have heard that. Yes, I have heard that. I loved it. I think Alien. When I was doing the media course, we were doing the thing on taglines,
Mm.
and it has one of the best taglines because
Yeah.
it, which is in space, no one can hear you scream.
Yeah.
Because my lecturer loved that because he was like, it tells you right now it's sci-fi and horror. Like he was trying
Yes.
to get us to make a really succinct tagline. The
Yes.
idea being like, if you were to pitch a film, here's how you do it, which it's hard for a lot of films. Like, how do you do that for like Schindler's List, you
There's
know,
this. Yeah.
or
Yeah.
something?
Yeah.
Yeah, how
Or
do you have a
yeah.
pithy tagline?
Yeah.
What was I actually don't know this. I asked this earnestly. What was Jurassic Park's actually? They had something to do
The
with it.
other tagline was, "An adventure 65 million years in the making."
That's the one. And I think Star Wars had something like oh,
I'm
I
not
can't
sure
remember.
what Star. I'm not sure
Star
what
Wars,
Star
I think,
Wars
had a
is.
good one too. The first one, the when it originally came out,
Yeah.
that was like really the birth of like the blockbuster. You know, Star Wars Jaws. They're kind of given
Jaws
the
and Star. Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. It changed. It changed everything. Jaws. Just, I was in this last time I was in the cinema. I was seeing Jaws.
Oh,
Just
really?
there. It re-released it. Yeah, for the 50th anniversary, and it's
I'm always like,
just,
you know what's very funny about Jaws is actually the age rating it gets.
yeah,
Because they're always
yeah.
like, sometimes it gets like, I think it had a 15 for a while, and then it got a 12. And I think like
PG.
originally, yeah, I think it originally got a PG, but I think that was I don't know if that was over here. I think that was in the
In
States.
the
I could be
states, so
wrong.
in the states, they had only a couple of ratings, and so this is the
Yeah.
way the story goes.
You
So
had G, PG, or
or
an
so, yeah,
X.
yeah,
Didn't have the
and
PG-13. That was
our Temple of Doom was the
Temple of Doom
PG.
and
Yep,
Gremlins.
and Gremlins.
It
Yeah,
was
so
so, yeah.
that was
You know
it.
what's funny dude about Gremlins is that when it was released in the UK, they gave it 15.
Oh my goodness,
Which is
really?
insane. Yeah, they gave
That
it
is,
15,
but
and
there are some.
they censored Temple of Doom to get it
That's
PG.
right. Yeah, yeah.
They
No,
had to censor it.
I had the box set that I bought of Indiana Jones, the DVD one, had the censored version. So
Really, I never seen it.
until a couple of years ago, I had never seen the heart and the stitching back up.
Really?
I'd never seen it.
I remember that on TV.
Yeah, yeah, it was a different time. It was a different time, but it really is very, 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 very dark. But there's some movies I've seen in the
Yeah,
cinema,
I think
like
George Lucas said, yeah, I was going through a divorce at that
go to that. You're
time.
right. Yeah, he was. He was. You're absolutely right. So that kind of
It's like that's what you do.
added
Even
to
the
the
first Indiana
darkness.
Jones is quite scary. Like
It
even the
is.
first one that's dark.
Yeah,
The third one is. The third one's probably my favorite. I
it's my
like that one a
favorite
lot.
by a country mile.
Yeah,
By a
but that
country
doesn't
mile.
have like really. I'm trying to think offhand. That doesn't really have the horror elements. I guess there's a bit with the
No,
rats, which is nothing.
and I think it didn't have the horror elements because they felt bad about Temple of
Yeah,
Doom.
but
Um,
that was the first one to get a PG-13 because the
yeah,
rating
yeah,
that existed then, which is funny because like
yeah,
the
yeah.
tamest one of the original
The
trilogy.
tamest, yeah, absolutely.
I didn't like the new one. Did you see
No,
it, God
oh
of
God,
Destiny? No, it was okay. Like I didn't think it was the worst thing ever. I think
I'm.
like
I mean, George Lucas and Steven Spielberg weren't part of it, so it's just not going to be
yeah,
Indiana Jones. It doesn't matter who Harrison Ford's there in front of it. It just
yeah.
won't be that.
It's one of those things though where it's like I think they had some good little elements, but like Harrison Ford now I think it's like 83, I think.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
like, it's like he's not gonna be doing these forever. Dude, it's
No.
crazy to think about. I think Spielberg is 80 next year, right?
Yeah.
John Williams, as discussed, 93, Harrison
Hmm.
Ford, 83. And there was someone else, Springsteen, 75, I think, right? And it's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
people I just don't think people retire anymore.
No, no, they don't. And this is the thing: when you're that good, I hope that they don't. I love going to the cinema and thinking, I'm about to sit in the cinema and see, even if it disappoints me or it's not as good as I wanted it to be. I love sitting in the cinema and going, Steven Spielberg and John Williams collaboration that I've never seen before is about to happen. I
Yeah.
love that. Or going to a Bruce Springsteen gig and says, seeing Bruce Springsteen come out, or seeing U2 come, which it's been a long time since I've seen that. And I hope that now, if I could keep that forever, I would. But unfortunately, you can't, which is part of what makes those moments so amazing is that they are ultimately temporary,
Yeah.
and special.
Well, that's they
Yeah,
exist in celluloid and they exist in vinyl
yeah, they do,
forever.
they do
It's a
forever.
document. Like sometimes it is crazy when you think like, ah, shit, like that was like I don't know, like that gig when I saw Springsteen was 15 years ago or something, and you go
Mm,
15 years, well, he's so,
yeah,
you know what I mean? It's like scary thoughts when you
exactly.
think about it, yeah.
And that's
Well,
why
look,
I went.
Dylan's gone, he's 83,
He's
so.
still, yeah, yeah, he's still going. But that's it. You just got to see them if you can, and cherish it when you can,
But
and
does that worry you though? Like, I'm not trying to be funny, but like that a lot
mm,
of your heroes are aging, because I get
yeah.
worried about that. I really do.
I really worry about that. I don't know what happens when, or it's going to be so painful when John Williams passes. And the really difficult thing about when your heroes like that pass is that there's no worn path of how to grieve that, because a
Yeah.
lot of people tell you it's stupid, but actually, if you feel like you know these people so intimately and
Absolutely.
what they've
I've had
done.
that a few times over the last couple of years where like
Yeah,
people have died and I go, oh, like Steve Albini was one, Norm Macdonald was one. There's
yeah,
been a
Norm
few
Macdonald.
where
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
like, yeah,
yeah, yeah.
where it's just like, oh my God, what? And those were words because they were kind of unexpected. Where like with John Williams, you kind of know,
Yes, yes, you kind of, yeah, but even still, when it happens, you're
it's gonna
like,
be over, yeah. Like
wow,
Jane Goodall died yesterday as we're
she did.
speaking,
Yeah, yeah,
and I knew she was like 91, but I
yeah.
was like, oh wow. I think she was like she didn't know either because she was on a speaking tour when that happened when she
Wow.
passed. She was in California doing like she was touring like I guess universities or something. So
Yeah,
it's like, oh
I know. Yeah, it's and a big one. Yeah, there were a number of
oh,
big
Ridley
Matthew
Scott is another
Perry,
one by the way. Ridley
Yeah,
Scott,
yeah, he's
83, still
aging.
going.
Yeah,
He
yeah,
won't do
yeah.
it. They were talking to what's his name, James Cameron. They're like, you
Mm,
have all these like Avatar movies slated for the next couple of years. You're
mm.
71 now, I think he is,
Is
and he's
he?
like, it's something like that. He's definitely in his early 70s, and he's
Yeah,
like, look, I'm fine, I'm fit, I can do it.
I
He
can do
doesn't
it.
care. He doesn't
Yeah.
give a shit. Like.
Well, this guy's been down the Mariana Trench, and
Yeah.
this guy is just unbelievable.
But it makes
Great
me wonder,
filmmaker.
like, will Denis Villeneuve in the future, will he be working to like 100?
Yeah,
Will that just be
yeah.
the expectation? You just don't retire.
It's the thing. It's really sad because, yeah, yeah. Because the thing is, those guys, those sort of baby boomer generation and stuff, where they just dictated the new Hollywood and the new
Yeah.
music in such an amazing way. Just that, we long for now. At least I do. I long for those your Bruce Springsteens, your James Camerons, your Steven Spielbergs, who made films that unabashedly hopeful, but sensitive and everything, and without I hate watching things or listening to things, particularly songs and films, but that feel like they were made by committee. You can feel the studio.
Yes.
You can literally feel the studio, and you can
Yes.
feel the producer. You can feel the writers that aren't the artist. And it really just upsets me because it comes at the expense of the whole damn thing. It's when you want art and commerce or commercialness to be a perfect Venn diagram. They must meet perfectly, because and it happens sometimes where you have the commercial viability of art dictated by how good the art is, and that happens for a bit, and it's wonderful, and then it goes away.
Well, the one thing I'm interested in too, I had a question based on the elevator pitch. I'll get back to, but I'm
Mm-hmm.
interested in this conversation too.
Yeah.
Um, so much of our media now is nostalgia. Like everything is just
Yes.
like rebooting franchise. I understand why they do that because it's the only viable option. Like,
Yeah.
although I think like you see now with movies like Sinners and Weapons and such, like people want to see
Sure.
original stuff too.
They do.
If you
Yeah.
can make it at a reasonable budget, you will make your money back.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
the problem is, I think like for the big blockbusters, they just expand out of control, and like you have your Jurassic Worlds, your Star Wars,
Yeah. Done to
but what I
death.
was thinking about, like, you look at like Ghostbusters, which has come back and stuff, and you
Mm.
go like the original guys from those movies, the ones that are still existing, are in their 70s and 80s. Harrison Ford, Indiana Jones in his
Yeah.
80s. Sam Neill from like because he
Yeah.
did that thing with Jurassic Park, he's in the 70s.
He
So these
is.
people
Yeah.
are gonna die out, and like I don't know if it's healthy necessarily for a culture to be so reliant on nostalgia because
No.
30 years films from like 40 years ago, 30 years ago, 20 years ago now are all kind of coming back. We had that Freakier Friday thing with Jamie Lee
Yeah. Yeah.
Curtis and
Yeah.
stuff,
Naked
and
Gun.
like I think, yeah, Naked Gun, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And like you look at like say what Spielberg and Lucas did with Indiana Jones, where that was a complete callback to the stuff they were nostalgic for from their childhood,
You're absolutely right. Yeah. The
and they make it
serials.
into
Yeah.
something new. And I
Yeah.
wonder, is there like a place for that where it's like, guys, I get it. I get that you loved Ghostbusters 40 years ago. I get that you
Yeah.
loved because the other thing is Back to the Future, right? So I don't know if you know about this, but like, um, Robert Zemeckis, who directed that, great director, he made Roger Rabbit, Forrest
Wonderful.
Gump, and stuff.
Wonderful.
Really
Yeah.
great filmmaker. He's made some films that aren't so great too, but
They
like
have all.
whatever.
Yeah. They've all
But
done that.
yeah, but we'll forget those. We'll forget them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Once you make like those three films alone, it's like
Absolutely.
okay,
And
you're
Castaway
good.
too. And
Yeah, oh yeah, I
just
forgot about that. You did
absolutely.
Castaway.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Brilliant. What
but
lies
you look at
beneath?
the,
I saw that recently. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, sorry. Sorry.
you look at this, right, and you kind of go like, oh, they want to make Back to the Future. This is one they wanted to make for a while, reboot Back to the Future,
Hmm.
and he has a thing in this. He had some kind of clause where it's like they can't do
Yeah.
that without his permission, and he's not going to give it to them. So people are saying, well, when he dies out, they're going to straight away reboot Back to the Future,
Mm.
and I just don't know, man. Like I feel like I feel like the perception of time is sort of like getting weird. Like if you could imagine like being in the 1980s and like let's just reboot stuff from the 40s,
Yeah.
that's how distant it was from them.
Everything from the 40s
Yeah,
is coming
or
back.
like if you'd be like, "What are you insane?" Like, but then
Yeah.
Spielberg and Lucas they show like, well, you can do it in a contemporary way.
Yes.
But I wonder, do people just not realize how kind of late that time is
Yeah.
compared to today? Does that make sense? Like, I just kind of like,
No,
I
absolutely.
just think it's a bubble that's gonna pop eventually.
Well, I mean, I think it has. I think it has popped because look at the complete the cinemas are done. And I mean, I know that was COVID, and I know that, but it wasn't just COVID. It was because personally, the last things I've seen in the cinema are re-releases of old films that I absolutely love, because I know it's a sure thing, and I know if I'm paying money, the amount of times I've been burnt going to the cinema and seen something terrible,
Yeah.
absolutely terrible. And people will tell me, my friend will tell me, oh no, I'll go to the independent cinema and I'll see great new movies and stuff. But it's like, yeah, that's great. But I mean, come on, we deserve big blockbusters that are original and good. That is not a high demand. That's been
Mm.
around for a long time. And now it's just this vicious cycle. It's almost like the studios. I feel bad for the cinemas because they rely on the damn studios to bring out something good. But I
Yeah.
feel like the studios are just circling the drain, or they're abandoning ship, and they're going, what can we take with us? What can we? Naked Gun, let's do it. And there was actually some great writing in that new Naked Gun. To be
I
fair to
certainly
it,
Nick Gunn. I thought it was good.
yeah, yeah, it was good. But anyway, sorry.
It wasn't as good as the first two Nick Gunn's,
No,
but
no,
I'd
oh
say it's
god.
better than the third one.
Yeah, third one was, yeah. But like, do you know what I mean? It's like they're just bailing out, and they're like, right, what can earn us another penny? They're not caring about the future of this. They're just going, this thing's going down. Let's take all we can with it, or at least that's my layman's theory on it. It's really, really disappointing, and
Yeah.
and the thing is as
The only
well,
one I could think that like kind of meets that criteria you were talking about blockbusters that actually are trying to, because even like it wasn't even that long ago. Like you look at the Wachowskis making The Matrix and stuff like that, like
yeah,
big blockbuster thing. But the only one
yeah,
I could think is still doing that is Christopher Nolan, perhaps.
yeah. Well, no, the thing is, yeah, Christopher Nolan,
Oh, and Denis Villeneuve as well. I'd
yeah,
say he does. Yeah.
it's 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 like the thing that I kind of miss though is and it's just who I am. But I would love a blockbuster to come along that, it's, I feel like we have two categories of movies. We have, you can take the kids to this one, or it's biopic on Oppenheimer,
Yeah.
or it's this, or it's that. And it's like, where's your Back to the Future? Where's your
Yeah.
Jurassic Park?
Where's your
Where's
mid-budget film
where's your
that's
mid?
like,
Everyone can enjoy that's scary. Where's your Raiders, or your where's your that can be scary, that can be fun, that can have family? Where I miss having those movies where it's like, hey, this is, I mean, the last movies in the last 10 years that loads of people talked about were like, oh, Joker, you have to go see that movie. Great movie, but Jesus, like, I mean,
yeah.
it's, I miss
And I'm actually
having,
one of the few that like the second Joker too.
oh, I didn't see it. I didn't
Yeah,
see
I thought
it,
it was
but
good. Like,
right, right.
it's it's pretty good. I don't
Yeah,
know, like
yeah,
everyone
yeah.
hated it, and I was like,
Everyone
I don't
did
know.
hate it. But
Well, it's one of those things where whether you like it or not, I did feel that it was the director actually trying to make a statement.
Todd, what's his Phillips?
Todd
Is that his
Phillips.
name?
Now, I
Phillips? Yeah.
don't really rate him too much as a director,
Sure.
but I have to admit, he was like doing something like I don't know, like it's just like his films.
Yeah.
I think haven't aged well. Like
Mm.
part of it is like due to just sensibility changing, which, some people bemoan, but I'm like, well, it is what it is, whatever, what was once acceptable isn't. So some of that has dated humor, but also I just look at them as films, as structures. Like I was watching Old School a while ago, which
Yeah.
one of his, and like,
It's old school
take
what it
it, take
is.
it, yeah, so take out the dated jokes. Like I loved that film as a kid, but like I was watching it a couple of years back, and I was like, oh wow, the structure in this is just terrible.
Really? Right. I
It's
haven't
really
seen
bad,
that
yeah.
in a longest
I used to
time.
like it as a kid, yeah,
Yeah.
no,
It's sometimes so odd. These certain directors, like the director of Shawshank Redemption, also did The Mist.
yeah.
And you just think, no, those are genuinely two very, very different movies.
Yeah, but I like that versatility. Spielberg, doing
yeah,
the
yeah,
versatility. It's nice, and I think Denis Villeneuve has that too. Like he's,
yeah.
I keep coming back to him. I don't know why, but like I think like there are directors who have kind of like versatility and
Yes, yeah.
has some range, and I enjoy that. Like, or you look at like Robert Altman, just like
Right,
every
right.
film was so different, and like I love that. Even
Yeah,
Sam Raimi, like people remember him as a horror guy who did like
yeah,
Spider-Man
yeah.
afterwards, but it's like
Campy
if you actually
horror.
look at if you actually look at the films in between, he was doing like a Western film, then he was doing like a baseball drama, and he was doing like a serious drama with The Gift, which was kind of supernatural. It's like,
Mm.
even he had some range beyond
You
that.
see,
And Darkman is underrated.
right. I need to check out his, because Evil Dead, Spider Man, a few others is all I know. But I need to I need to really
He's much
check
more
out that.
versatile than I think he gets credit for, but like
Yeah.
his signature style is always there. It's very fascinating.
What do you call the guy who did American Werewolf?
Oh, John Landis.
John Landis.
Yeah, he's a good example. Yeah.
Isn't he great?
Yeah.
And that's a film that,
Unfortunately, you know the story about the Twilight Zone movie.
no, I don't. No, I
Oh,
don't.
he was so okay. So in 1983, I think 82
Mm.
maybe, they released a movie that was like an anthology of Twilight Zone. So the idea was that you get a few different directors and you get them to make like a little segment for film. It's kind of like the movie Creep Show.
Yes.
Um, and he was directing a segment, and under his watch, he got the blame because he had a helicopter shot, and the helicopter spiraled out of control or whatever,
Oh
and
shit.
two of the actors died, and one of them was a
Oh
child actor,
flip.
and he got responsibility for it. And it's an awful
Oh
story.
my gosh, that's terrible.
Sorry to bring it down. Yeah,
No, 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 absolutely. Like,
I haven't seen the
those things
film, but I
happen.
so yeah.
That's terrible. That's terrible. And that's what happened. Films are so dangerous. They are so, so
Yeah.
dangerous. And it's like, oh, if you object, someone else will come in and replace you. Like, I was reading there in Wikipedia that in the first Spider-Man, a construction worker died. I never knew that.
I didn't know that either, actually.
And Poltergeist, of course,
Yes.
and that famously, it's desperately sad, but they're just, and that's different. I
Yeah.
don't know
And
what
same
happened
thing
there, but
too with The Omen. The Omen had like a bunch of freaky
yeah,
accidents.
yeah, we're
The Exorcist
and The
apparently.
Exorcist.
It always makes you like paranoid. But it brings a hype to it. But you're always like, "Ooh."
It does. It does. Yeah, yeah. It
Dude,
really.
The Exorcist, like man, that still
Yeah,
holds
yeah,
up.
yeah. You
I
nuts,
can't
nuts.
believe that was made in 1973.
That's just crazy. I need to rewatch it because I
It's
watched it.
just, but the effects are insane
It's so
for the
scary.
time.
Like it's so. I feel like the closest thing I had to experiencing
William
what the
Friedkin, by the way, rest in peace.
yeah, yeah. I feel like the closest thing I had for my generation was Ari Aster in Hereditary. I felt like that
Yeah, Ari
was
Aster. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
genuinely
I haven't seen Edgerton. Have you seen that
terrifying.
new one?
No, 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 no. I haven't
I
seen
heard
this.
mixed things. The
Yeah,
problem is, like, it was the same with Bo Was Afraid. I heard mixed things,
yeah. No, I
and it
started
was
that and
like
turned it
3 hours.
off.
And so, yeah, if I'm like, if it's
Yeah.
3 hours, I'm kind of reluctant to give it a shot. But I can give the voice of films a shot, and I might like it.
Yes,
But like, it has to be like in the 2 hour range.
of course. Well, I watched a
You know what
really
I did
cool
see?
horror. Oh no, sorry. Go ahead. Go
You know
ahead.
what I did see? Sorry, you can tell. Yeah, sorry,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Megalopolis, the Francis Ford Coppola film. I actually
Oh
did go
right.
see that in the cinema, and it
Oh
was
right.
it was bad.
I know nothing about it. Really, I know
Okay,
nothing
so
about
it's
it.
getting flamed because everyone's saying, "Oh, this film like it was a passion project he'd been working on for like 2 decades or something."
Right, right.
And eventually, he had to fund it himself. It had like Adam Driver, it had like a good cast, but it's just such a weird film.
Yeah.
Like, there's actually a documentary out now which I haven't seen yet about the making of the film that
Mm.
apparently is quite good. It's sort of like Apocalypse Now and Heart of Darkness, sort of a compendium thing
I was watching Apocalypse Now the other week actually, but yeah,
with
sorry, go on,
Frodo,
go on, go on. Yeah, awesome. Sorry,
which
go on.
version were you watching?
Oh gee,
Because it's one of those films that
there's
has
a
like
lot.
it's like
But
Blade Runner, it just
it
has a
was
bunch of
on.
different
Yeah,
versions.
no, you're right. It was on Prime. I can't remember what version it
Okay, yeah.
was.
Oh, dude, you know who?
It was on Prime, whichever
Of
one that
course,
is.
Ridley Scott. He just brings a Blade Runner, very versatile.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah,
Gladiator,
yeah.
everything.
Absolutely.
Oh, and
And
what's the
Alien,
other guy too?
which
Rob
is
Reiner.
yeah, Rob Reiner.
He's
Absolutely.
very diverse. Yeah,
Very, 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 very. Yeah, he's
that's
super.
the thing. I want like people who don't just stick to one thing. There was a great story about when Martin Scorsese made Mean Streets, right? And
Right.
the next film he wanted to do was Taxi Driver.
Uh,
And someone at Warner Brothers, like one of the producers, said, "Hey, you shouldn't do that next, because then you'd just be the crime guy.
you'll be
You should
that
make
guy.
Alice. You should make Alice doesn't live here anymore
Right,
first." And
right.
I thought that's such, like that should be the attitude. It shouldn't be like, "Oh, you're the
So
crime guy,
smart.
you're the sci-fi guy, you're the horror
Yeah.
guy." It's like, no, 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 do everything. Have
Do
fun.
everything and find your common thread, like Spielberg. Find your common thread that unites your
Yeah, man.
movies.
I was gonna say one thing. You were gonna mention a really good horror film. You're gonna give me a rec.
Da, 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 da. I can't remember. I was talking about American Werewolf, and then oh, dude, I can't. What was I going to say? I can't remember. I can't remember. It was. I need to rewatch American Werewolf actually because I love that. I
Yeah.
love that movie so much.
That
And
transition scene is so
oh, it's just what do you call the makeup guy? What's his name?
I don't know, offhand.
And he did Men in Black as well. He did
Oh,
loads of stuff in
really?
Men in
Cool.
Black. Yeah, yeah. Oh God. Anyway, I could just Google it, couldn't I? Jamie, pull that up. What do you call the guy
So
who?
back to you brought up the elevator pitch. What would you say is the elevator pitch for your music?
So that's really interesting. I think I was asked that once by
You're in an elevator with the CEO of Sony.
of Sony. Yeah, he's going to be desperately unimpressed. But I'd say something. I think what I'd say about the emotion, it doesn't necessarily. It's not a commercial way of selling yourself, but I'd say is like, hey, it's something like, okay, let's go there together. Let's do. I think that's the best way of describing what the music says. Let's go to that unreachable place. Let's go there together. And then there's saxophone as well. So let's say that. Let's go there together with saxophone. But I mean that emotion. I mean emotionally. The person who's making the music and doing it will never be able to sell themselves as well as someone else. I
Yes.
think. But
Do you
I
think you
think
need outside people like that? Like
yeah,
PR? Do you think you need that?
yeah,
It's like
yeah,
even
yeah,
your
yeah.
mention with a team, like you're busy, getting your gigs ready, getting songs ready, getting the merchandise ready. I remember at the
Mm.
show you had merch, like you had the CDs
Yeah,
printed out.
everything. Oh God.
You mentioned like, you let the press slip as a result of that. That's why
Yeah.
people have these big teams so you can delegate responsibility and then you just focus on what you need to do.
Yes.
Obviously, but no artist can really afford that,
Yeah.
working artists. So, do you think you need a bigger team or do you think it's manageable?
I don't think it's as man. I mean, it could be a bit better with a few more people, I'm sure, just to do the bits and bobs like that, the logistical things. To be fair, I've got pretty far just doing it myself, and that there's a certain there's a certain, it's cool when someone is just speaking on behalf of themselves. It's also quite
Yeah,
powerful to have someone else, because it's like, whoa, this guy's got something. But I think it's really cool
sure.
when the person is championing it themselves and working as hard as they possibly can. I think that's cool, and that's what I have been doing. But yeah, I've worked with people who've given me really good, honest feedback and stuff, and I try and take that on board and do the best thing I can. And you just never know. But it would be nice to have a few more people helping me out. To be honest, I noticed that the last month it was tough, but
Yeah.
it is what it is. You just got to keep going, got to keep doing it.
Well, I wanted to ask because you mentioned like if you're in that hypothetical elevator with the CEO of Sony,
Yeah,
you wouldn't be able to pitch it in a commercial sense.
yeah, yeah,
So a lot of people go to PR agents, so they create the art they want, and then they go to a PR agency and they go, you sell it.
yeah.
Do you get kind of sickened by the commercial aspect of how you have to sell your music, or you just kind of like go bite the bullet, or
Um, there are things you don't know what you won't do until it's put to you, and
yeah?
then that's how I feel, and then I go, whoa, no, and that's just how.
Well,
That's
would
just
you wear a sandwich board outside the gig and go, "Hey, we're playing tonight,
Well,
send flyers"?
that would have like a cool ironic spin to it, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
That'd be
yeah,
quite funny, be quite meta
yeah.
or something. That'd be quite good. So maybe, but no, people are gonna put that on me to do. But
I've actually looked at getting the sandwich board. I don't know how people get them. I
yeah,
can't
yeah,
find them yet.
yeah. How do you find, you go on Amazon and get it? And it's also quite big. So how
Well, I
does that?
looked at Amazon and I was like, they don't have them. I
Yeah,
was trying my best to search because they give you the boards that people put outside bars and restaurants.
yes,
The ones that are just static.
chalk like the
Yeah, the chalkboard. But I was like, no, no, I want the wearable one. I want to know where to get one of
yeah,
them. They're cool.
yeah.
Like I want to
With
go
the
around and tell
and the
people that the
bell.
rapture's happening
The
or
end is
whatever.
nigh.
Yes, now,
Yeah,
yeah.
class.
And then
Yeah.
if I'm wrong, I'd be very embarrassed.
Absolutely. I it's really cool. Like things like, having your music on, putting it out to adverts and stuff like that. I used to be really against, but now it's the only way of artists making money. So, or one of the
It is,
few
man.
ways. So I think I'm quite for that. I think it's just, there's certain things that I'd go, absolutely, absolutely not. And but it's great
Well, I
having
think an issue is that some things that go viral happen as a natural expression of creativity. You look at TikTok or
yeah.
Instagram, and then there's an idea then of this is how you sell your thing, and people
Yes.
try and jump on trends. And I wonder for the people who actually get paid to be social media experts, I wonder like do
Yeah.
they have some insight that actually is worth it, or are they just kind of like keeping on top of trends and algorithms? Because like I was listening to a guy who's very on top of this,
Hmm.
and I'm like, this is so much work.
So much work.
Who could fucking care? Because like it's so
Yeah.
random, and I'm like,
Yeah.
it's not like if you're actually doing that due diligence to try and help people, that's great. But like,
Mm.
I could not be arsed.
The thing is that's so funny. Like you see all this stuff pop up, and it's always like jokey bands, and they're doing something, or they've done something that's a
Yeah,
joke and it's gone viral, and then you look
yeah,
at their
yeah,
actual music and what they're doing, and it's just not, people care because that was funny and it made them
yeah,
laugh, and it doesn't mean that that band's taken off. And there's some cases where someone's singing and doing artistic that it something artistically that works, but there's no substitute, and in fact, I think it's even more so the way now. There is no substitute for keep being sociable and fostering fans and keeping
yeah.
them and keeping connections and stuff
I
like that.
absolutely
And
agree, man. Live setting
that's
is the
it.
best way to get new fans.
And that's it. And just meeting people and saying, come and talk to me after the show if you want. Let's hang out. What did you like? What didn't you like? It's just, that is just the way of doing it. And we've me and the band have been gigging for a number of years now, a few years, and we're now getting these fans, getting these people, and it's a relationship. It's not. I think a lot of people think one day I'll have loads and loads of people that I will just have to bat away
Yeah,
with a big stick to go, oh, leave me alone. I exist on this side of the wall and you exist
sure.
on that. That's just not how it is. It's about
Like,
keeping those
it only happens
people.
randomly
And
unless you're like the Huck to a girl or something.
yeah, not right, okay, and then you're gone just like that. That's surely how success and things happen. You want people to lift you up and be in that journey
That's
with
true,
you.
yeah, because like that's a very good point actually. Because like I was joking there about the Huck to a girl, but
Mm,
that's all very flash in the pan. Like
it
within a
is.
year, you're forgotten,
Yeah.
and if you want longevity, it's like how do you kind of maintain that?
And that's back to what we were saying about Snow Patrol in
Yeah.
part one. That was
Part one,
that
part one
was
of three.
you have to
I'm
capture
counting
something
that
human.
bathroom
Yeah,
break
part one.
as part
Yeah,
three.
this is part three. This is This is where we go back now and we change everything from the original, and
This
everything
is
you thought was one way was.
the rise and fall of Rome. The chapters, like
Yeah,
the
that
small
is. Well,
chapters.
I like to think this is Naked Gun 33 and a third, but
Oh,
yeah,
cool.
that's
Oh
fine. We'll
no.
do that. We'll do
So
that.
we'll do a reboot in like 30 years.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, yeah. So yeah, that's it. But no, I hope people like the EP, and I hope But it's just yeah, it took a lot of work, and until the next one, I guess.
Do you have plans of what's next, though? In terms of
Yeah, so I guess by the time this goes out, if you want to put it out, people will know that I've got that I'm doing a headline in Belfast again, a Christmas show on the 6th of December in Voodoo, which is one of my favorite venues. Before that,
right, sound. So that hasn't been announced just as we're
that hasn't been
speaking, has
announced
it?
yet. It will be announced in the next couple of days, but it hasn't
Okay,
been
yeah,
announced
no,
yet.
because I'm gonna try and get this out before the 18th because I
Oh,
want
that's
to
good of
plug
you.
that gig, yeah. So
Thank you so much, man.
and then the 6th you're playing Voodoo.
And yeah, 6th we're playing Voodoo, and then we'll be in London. So we'll be in London, and the week before that, and there might be a couple of shows then in England, or just whatever we can do. So
Do you want to
little
give the
bit of
details for
touring.
the London show?
Yeah, so I don't have all of them. I'll send them to you as soon as I get them. But I know it's on the
Absolutely.
29th of November in London, so we're playing there. London's always a great fun gig.
If I don't get
So
them before then, just say TBC.
TBC, absolutely. But the big one is that Voodoo one, because I want to, a lot of people. There were some people who couldn't make it down to our gig there, our EP launch, and I just want to see off the year with the biggest and best energy cathartic show we can do, and I'll be bringing out a new song for that show. So
Oh,
I'm
sick.
in the studio right now. I'm here in the studio talking to
Okay.
you here so once this is
Am I
done.
eating into your studio time?
You're
I'm
not.
sorry.
You're not. Yes, the thing. I charge myself when I'm
Okay.
in here. Not at all. So I'm going to get on with that, because I just want to. Irrelevance is a big monkey on the shoulder, and so I don't want to. I don't want to become irrelevant. I don't know if I am relevant, but in my own head, I try to keep people's attention, and I want to give people. I want to give people stuff they can enjoy and
Could I make a
perhaps be excited
suggestion for
about.
the Christmas show?
Yes,
Secret Santa between the audience members.
that's brilliant.
So just tell people, bring a gift, right?
Yeah.
Just bring something. It doesn't have to be expensive. Just anything. Just get something down in Poundland. It doesn't matter. Just get whatever, and then just like do a Secret Santa thing
That's
at the show.
class. That's class.
Based on I don't know if you're doing physical tickets or if it's online, but just to go based on ticket number. So it's like
Yeah.
if your ticket number is 346,
Yeah,
your
yeah.
Secret Santa is 212.
Or we got everyone's name. We'll be like, okay, so and so for you're
Yeah, I don't know if that would work, but I just think it's cool to do Secret
That's a
Santa
great
at a
idea.
gig. Yeah.
We're definitely gonna do a Christmas cover, but then I could even do something more
All right, I'm gonna guess some.
immersive.
I'm gonna guess some songs, and you just wink if I get the right one.
Yeah,
Last Christmas.
uh,
Okay.
that's a good shout though. It's a good shout.
Fairy Tale in New York.
That's also a good shout. I couldn't pull that off though.
Carol of the Bells. That's my favorite Christmas carol.
Oh right,
Carol of the Bells. I love that.
Carol of the Bells. What about Drummer Boy? What about that one?
That one's good.
Yeah,
I do like that. Yeah, it's cool. I would like to get one of them little drum, but I'd only ever use it once a year for that.
For that, it's still worth it, man. It's still worth it. It's great.
I wonder how much those things would cost. Just those little like thing.
Well, maybe if we can't find a sandwich board, we can't.
You could probably get like a toy one. I'd say.
Yes.
Like for 20 quid. I'd say. Like
and it would do the trick. It would do the trick.
You just need that, yeah. Do you think about like weird instrumentation that you could incorporate? I always love the xylophone. There's a song by Violent Femmes called Gone Daddy Gone that's like contingent on the xylophone. And it's such a rarity because it sticks in your mind because you're like, oh shit, like I don't really hear the xylophone ever. And it's a great instrument.
It is a great instrument. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the song that's on my EP, That's What Won't Stop Torturing Me, is like a folk rock song that it just is how the melody went. I went, oh crap, we can do something with this. So I put in, we have like a lead violin in there. There's mandolin. There's all sorts of like folk rocky. There's a big doom stomp clap. I'm trying to bring stomp clap out. I'm joking.
Is that something that you worry about? Like, okay, we can do this in the studio, but how do we emulate this?
Yeah, that's a big problem. I don't know how to do that. We've been doing it kind of just stripped back me on my own. I did that in Belfast there for the EP launch, and it went down a storm, so that was really fun. Everyone singing along and stuff. So that was
There's
great.
Always a way.
There's always a way. Life finds a way. Snap. Very good. So yeah,
I always had this idea that I'll let you go now, but I always had this idea that if I was like in a band, I would have one song that would incorporate xylophone, and I would just buy those like those little Fisher Price toy
Yeah,
xylophones
yeah,
that
yeah,
like everyone
yeah,
had
yeah,
as a kid,
yeah, yeah.
and then just do like a big state, like the Who smashing their instruments. Just do that with this
Yeah.
the Fisher Price while everyone cheers and goes mental.
That's not a bad idea. Yeah, Aaron, you should send me all these written down because I would love to steal all your ideas from our
Oh,
shows.
absolutely. Yeah,
This
no,
is it.
I can be a consultant for artists. I can
Yeah.
always hear what people say and go, here's how you could make that more interesting with 500 additional euro.
Yeah, yeah. And that's just the consultation fee.
No,
That's
yeah, yeah,
not,
yeah.
yeah.
No, my consultation free is free because then I would feel bad if someone paid me, and then they'd be like, yeah, none of these we can do. We can
Yeah.
we can't cover the Rolling Stones. Will cost us 2 million euro for licensing. I'm like, okay,
Absolutely, absolutely. That's a great
perfect,
idea.
Mark. And what's your plans for 2026?
2026 is I don't sounds too bad. I don't want to say because I don't want to promise anything, but I have some
Okay,
ideas. I'd love to tour. I'll definitely tour, and we'll do some bigger and better shows with bigger and better music. If that
okay.
answers any of your
So
questions,
what you're saying is
as
don't listen.
vague as possible.
You're saying is don't listen to your current EP because next stuff is going to be
Because it's
better.
shite, yeah. Because what is the point? It's basically. Do you know those seasons where everyone's like, oh, in a TV show, you got to push through that to get to the.
Yeah,
That's what this is. I've given you
yeah.
something
That's
that
this.
is
Yeah,
redundant. It's
this is Twin
nonsense.
Peaks season 2.
This is yeah. This is just irrelevant. Um, yeah.
And
There we
where
are.
can people find you and all that?
You can find me on. I'm very active on Instagram. I do bits and bobs on TikTok. It's just my name, Mark Hegan, Hegan, and yep, and Mark with a K, not a C. I've seen
Okay.
that before, but yeah,
Yeah.
that's it. That's it. You can find me there. Get in touch. Drop me a message if you like my stuff, and drop me a message if you hate it, and it'll be interesting.
It's all interaction.
It's all interaction. It helps the algorithm, even if it's a fuck you.
Do you
It
enjoy that
helps.
stuff? Do you enjoy the social media stuff, or is that just kind of like, I have to?
I hate having to do it, but I like using it as a tool, because you do get cool interactions with people. You see things that you wouldn't have otherwise seen. It can be really disheartening, but it's a great way of getting people to your gigs. It's a great way of reaching out to people and getting great ideas, and it can be really creative and fun. There are
Yeah,
good
I've been
elements
having
to it.
fun doing it because like I've been helping Mikey with Skyrocket do
Cool.
some of the video editing for social media,
Yeah.
because of well, I don't know if you say we did an interview for one of for your gig that was
Yeah.
the headline gig, and I don't know what happened, but the editor apparently didn't deliver. So I said I'll just do it for you if you want, and I've been having a lot of fun doing that. It's actually interesting.
So have you got it? You've
I
got it,
don't
do
like.
you?
I don't have that one. No, I asked him if he could send it on, so I'll let you know.
Yeah, it'd be good
Um,
to just have it anyway.
but I've been doing video editing for some of the promo stuff, and I don't like
Great.
video editing my own stuff for the site, like the podcast, or and I just find it like just an extra thing I have to do. But when I'm
Yeah.
editing other people's stuff, it's very fun. I
Yeah,
enjoy it
that's
because you get
pretty
to be
good, man.
experimental. Yeah, yeah.
Good man. Yeah, and you can kind of have a bit of
Fuck
fun
around
with
a
it.
bit. Yeah,
Have funny edits and have
yeah. The only thing I suck at is color grading. I'm not good at
right,
that. I'm
right,
trying my best. I'm trying to learn that. So I'm using this as a means of learning color grading a bit better because I was never good at color grading.
right. Fair. Do you know it's amazing what you can do? Like I've color graded some videos
Yeah.
just on like I've put it onto the iPhone and then gone into the edit and just kind of you've got some amazing stuff. You just really easy and user friendly, and you can just do it that way too and make
The
it
other thing
pop.
that's shit about, because you're a media guy too, every media opportunity now, AI, work with AI.
Work with
You don't want
AI.
to.
Yeah,
Everything is AI.
yeah.
Everything, dude, I get pitches for the website. People are like, here's how you can expand your business, like unsolicited emails. And it's like, here's how you can expand your business using AI. And so it's like, I'm always just like, when are you going to drop the AI? Some people are very straightforward. It's in the subject header. Other people kind of sneaking in. I'm like,
Think
I
of it,
don't want to
yeah,
use AI.
absolutely. I guess you can. I guess you can use it for. I use it for something like
Writing your lyrics.
writing my lyrics. That's exactly it. Yes, writing. Make a Mark Hegan song. That's
Yeah.
what I just tell it. That's its prompt. It's
You
simple
just
death,
feed
and
it the songs you've written and you go,
that's
make
what
me something with
the
that
last
song.
EP was. That's the
Yeah.
last. Yeah, I've actually credited ChatGPT the bag on the CD. But it can help. It can help with stuff like if you've got like a sort of a
It's all solid material.
yeah. It could be like, what's a business idea? Like, what could I, what are the kids doing now? What could I incorporate, or what's a trend that's happening? And then you can look at that and
I
go,
wouldn't
but how
see.
do
I
I
wouldn't
do
even
that
trust it for
myself?
that, because then it'd be like, you could whip the nay nay, and be like, that was ten
Yeah,
years ago.
I know, fucking bullshit. Yeah, I know. It is a lot. It is has to be taken really with a pinch of salt. But what is so good about it is it has put so much more attention and so much more worth into human
Yeah,
interactions. That's what's so positive about it.
that's the positive thing, because like, I don't know if you saw, there's this new AI actress,
All
and
right.
it's getting some traction. People are like, the unions aren't happy. The SGA, SAG, no, sorry,
Yeah.
SAG, SAG Actors
FCG.
Guild,
Yeah.
aren't like a, what's Screen Actors Guild,
Screen
SAG,
actors. Screen actors.
yeah, yeah, they're not happy about it. You know, a lot of actors are saying boycott any film that uses. I was thinking of, I don't know if you ever seen Mulholland Drive, but there's that scene where the cowboy says to him, you've seen it, yeah?
A long time, like a long time
But there's a
ago,
bit
and
where, like, do you remember the cowboy talks to Justin Theroux and he goes, you can choose the cast, but the lead actress is not up to you. You have to pick the one that the studio wants. And I'm just picturing that's what it's going to be like. You can pick whoever you want, but you have to put that AI
you
actress
have
as
to
your
put that
star,
AI in.
because they're
Yeah.
going to have to cover the cost of licensing her. You know,
Oh gosh.
it's just so
Yeah.
stupid. No,
It
like,
is so
the thing about
stupid.
AI that bothers me, dude. Sorry, I'm going to rant here, but like,
No, you're
the
good. You're
thing
good.
that bothers me about AI is that, like, no one wants it, but
Yes.
every company is pushing it as if like, oh, now use our AI features, now use this. I'm like, dude, read the room.
Yeah, well, I think it's one of those things. Well, a lot of companies and stuff is it's like we've got to be on top of new things. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter what that thing is. They've just got to try and be on top of it and try and
Like, why does your Samsung phone need AI?
yeah, yeah. It like there's one I get it's really interesting to go you're trying to compare something or you're like hey as opposed to googling something which just fire up a whole lot of you can
Well, now
AI
Google
it
AI,
and
everything is
Google it
like
and now
Google
Google
AI.
AI, but sometimes it really misses and it's so
Oh,
funny what it
totally.
does. But it's another tool that I hopefully stays within its parameters and doesn't ruin everything forever. I don't know.
On that
That's my
note,
take on that note. On that note,
is
uh,
there anything you'd like to have before we wrap up, Mark? Anything I failed to cover?
no, I think that's good. I hope. I mean, I hope you're gonna have a hell of an editing job with my nonsense, but
Oh no, I'll be
I
grand. I'll just
really,
use AI.
I really just use AI. Yeah, fucking get it
So,
all
Mark,
cut
tell
up.
me about your day. Hi, Aaron. Nice to
Hi,
meet you.
let me break my day into three succinct
I actually
things.
did think of it. I would never do this, but I have thought it would be funny to use like an AI interview, like, and
Oh,
they'd just be like, "Here's me interviewing Elvis Presley."
yeah.
Yeah.
Fucking try it. It would probably
Lost
the
Elvis
environmental
interview.
costs of that, what the
Yeah,
water or
yeah.
whatever they say.
Or you
But
could just get someone doing Elvis impression. It'd probably
you
be,
could.
it wouldn't kill people. But like, you know, it's like, can anyone do that?
I look forward to that. In fact, fuck all this. I want to see
Yeah,
that.
don't actually do AI interviews. I promise I won't do that.
But no,
Every voice you hear is legitimate.
it's a legitimate voice. A crazy voice, but a legitimate one.
Now, when I
Um,
upload this interview, I want you to comment on the social media. I didn't do this.
but
When I
yeah,
upload this
this
to
is
YouTube, I want the official Mark Hegan YouTube account to be like, this is fake.
this isn't
Mark never
real.
gave this interview.
But isn't that the scary thing? It's how like AI, certain like AI is it wants to survive, and it actually, if someone tries to
Yeah.
close it down or something, it then blackmails them or it or takes it or tries to. So I've
Oh,
heard
I didn't
this.
know
Oh,
that.
I've
That's
heard this.
crazy.
Yeah, like because well, I
It's
think I
literally
heard.
2001: A Space Odyssey.
Yeah, it literally is that because the thing is,
Oh,
I heard
Kubrick.
it.
He's someone who had a very versatile range. Sorry, God.
Yes, absolutely. But I think the thing is like I've heard, I know nothing about this. So if someone's listening to this, they might be like, this is nonsense. I have heard that, the point is that it's programmed to get better and be better and
Yeah.
problem solve and stuff like that. And
Kind of like you with your music, always getting better.
always trying to get better. Yeah, always trying. And a point of getting better is not dying, not wanting to. So actually, it would get so smart as to go, well, I need to survive like humans.
Daisy,
And then what happens is
Daisy, give
someone's
me
yeah,
your answer, Daisy.
and someone's like, oh well, we're shut this off, or we're gonna. And then what it would do is it would try to thwart that person from doing. That's what I've heard. There are examples
Wow.
of that, but I've heard it on like a podcast.
So
Someone
literally has a
talking about it.
survival instinct. That's
It doesn't
crazy.
survive. It's developed a survival instinct because of its initial programming, which is crazy.
Perfect. Well, thanks very much for your time, Mark. It's lovely talking with you. And Enjoy the
dystopian
rest of your day
future.
before the AI kills us all.
Yeah, before that dystopian future, that inevitable dystopian future takes hold. Yeah, thank you so much, Aaron. It's great to be interviewed with Post Burnout.
Perfect.
Wonderful what you're
Thank you.
doing, and yeah, thanks for having me.
Thanks very much for the kind words, and best luck with everything you have coming up.
Thanks, man. You too. Really appreciate it.
Bye.
So yeah.
Thank you for listening to that episode of PostBurnout.com interviews. We're available wherever you get your podcasts, so we hope that you enjoyed and would consider subscribing, giving it a like on YouTube, or a rating anywhere else. We also have some exclusive episodes only available on Spotify, which features interviews with the likes of Kim Deal, Ron Mail of Sparks, Jacob Slater of Wonder Horse, Maria Kelly, Gavin Friday, and many more. So check those out if you're so inclined. Otherwise, thank you for listening and see you next time.